This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to a very sunny and hot Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. I'm actually sitting with a herd of wildebeest as they rest in the shade in the heat of the day up on quarantine. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide this afternoon on safari. Behind the camera we have Mpo, and we are very excited. We have a special guest with us today. This is Kurt. Kurt is a Ticket to Dream holder, and he will be joining us for the live safari today. Kurt, what are you most excited to see today? What are you looking for?
Wild dogs on a hunt.
Wild dogs on a hunt. Kurt has some really, really good expectations. I'm actually very, very excited. I hope that we find some wild dogs for you today, Kurt. I'll do what I can. We'll see what the dogs are doing, though.
We'll see what the new nature is showing us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for now, we're actually just relaxing in the shade. We're very lucky. We found ourselves a shady spot to watch these wildebeest in. And you can see it is incredibly hot today. So we'd actually love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments, please send them in for us. You can find us at #WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on YouTube, or if you're under the age of 18, you can pop us an email on kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. You can also register on the WildEarth website, head over to the live safari page and submit your questions there. I can't wait to hear from you and hear what you're thinking. So you can see the wildebeest are definitely not looking like they want to move anytime soon. It's a very hot 32 degrees Celsius here, although I think it might actually be hotter. And I think it's going to be quite a promising afternoon. The breeze is still nice and gentle. Luckily, it's a bit of a built-in air conditioner, and it's keeping us cool here in the shade. But you can imagine how hot these wildebeest must be feeling as soon as the sun moves and they have to get up and follow the shade again. It's actually quite interesting to see. It looks like some of the younger wildebeest are the only ones that are actually still in the sun. Maybe that's because their coats are a little differently colored. They're a bit more brown than gray. So this herd probably slept here during the night last night and went off feeding this morning. And then they probably came back through the heat of the day after a visit to Vuyatela Dam. I'm sure they would have had a lot of thirst to quench today. It's actually still only one wildebeest that's standing up, but even with the ones lying down, you can see really nicely that they've all got very big bellies. And that is wonderful. It's our proper first sign of spring when all the animals start showing their pregnant tummies. And I was very lucky to see the first baby of spring this morning. It wasn't a wildebeest, it was a Ngala, but I was very excited to see it anyway. I think we're going to have a lot of babies that come up very soon. And that's definitely my favorite season. You can actually see just the tufts of their manes blowing in the wind there. Alright, so while these wildebeest enjoy the shade, why don't we have a look at what the weather is doing in our different locations this afternoon. So it definitely doesn't look like these wildebeest want to go anywhere for at least an hour or two until it starts cooling down. But they do actually have a friend. There is a little Burchell's starling that is creeping up on them very slowly from the foreground here. And I'm sure it's looking for some insect snacks as it gets closer and closer to them. You can imagine as these wildebeest start moving through the heat, the starling is going to have some nice pickings of insects through the afternoon as they get flushed up from the grass. So this is probably the best light that you could have for a Burchell's starling. You can really see that metallic sheen. And this is probably why starlings are so popular. They definitely have some beautiful colors on them. Interestingly enough, a starling's feathers are not actually metallic, nor are they blue. It actually all depends on the angle of the light that's reflecting from the sun. It's called an iridescent sheen, and basically it's just the structure of their feathers that reflects light, and it reflects the whole rainbow. But we see more the dark blue tones. If the light changes as it gets later, you might see it as more purple. Early in the mornings, you might see it as more green. It is very close to that wildebeest. Mm-hmm. It's actually disappeared there behind that wildebeest. So it's now in the middle of the herd, which is the best place for it to be if it wants some late lunch. Let's just come out on the other side again. Right, but these wildebeest are definitely still feeling very tired in the sun. Everyone except that one little youngster at the back there seems to be more than happy in the sun. That's a yearling from last year, and so it's just starting to change color now. But I think especially now at the beginning of this afternoon, I think it is going to be very similar in a lot of the herbivores. I think everyone's going to be sticking to the shade until it starts cooling off at around 4 o'clock, and then we might see a lot more movement. That being said, it is a great day to go and check all of the dams because it has been so hot. I think animals will have come down to have had a drink. So maybe I'll get lucky with some elephants. Maybe I'll get even luckier with some wild dogs for Kurt. We'll have to hold thumbs for that one. All right, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave these wildebeest to enjoy the shade, and I'm going to head on to go and check the first dam. Let's see what we come across as we go. I think it is going to be quite a promising day. Hopefully that is the case. Luckily, it's still early on. So we've got a lot of time to bump into different animals today. It's also been an exceptionally good day for birding so far. And that's again because of the heat. For a week we've had very, very cold winds. And it's been very up and down, overcast, sometimes raining. And so the birds have had a little bit of a hard time, and I'm sure they are absolutely loving this warm weather. Yes, we're also very excited to have a guest with us this afternoon. It's so lovely to be able to share this magic in person and not just on camera. Thank you for joining us, Kurt. All right, so I'm going to head towards Treehouse Dam. I think it's a good place to start. I think, especially with the heat, maybe the predators won't be out right now, but there is a lot of promise because after a very hot day, that's usually when predators are particularly active. I can see a giraffe in the distance, although it's hiding behind a termite mound, but I'm going to try and get you a view. So I can definitely tell you that this giraffe is quite different to the other animals. It seems to be in the sun, although it must be quite hard to find shade when you're so tall, especially just after the winter months. Oh, he's walking away. All right, I'll have to have a look from here. So I don't want to go too much closer if the giraffe is already moving. You can see it looks like it wants some shade. It's actually looking down towards the drainage line, which is just behind it. And I think just deciding where it wants to go from here. I wouldn't be surprised if this giraffe has already had a drink. This actually looks like an adult female. Quite unusual that she's on her own, but not very much in this area would take down a giraffe of that size. She is quite old. All right, let me see if I can get you a little bit closer now that she's stopped to feed. So it is very interesting because giraffes actually tend to be able to cope with the hot weather a little bit better than some of the other animals can. And so sometimes you will see them in the full sun like now. Oh, it is very dusty today because it's so hot. So she's definitely still looking out. She is alert. She's wanting to make sure there isn't anything very close by, and that's purely because she's headed towards the drainage line, which is a thicker area, and so there might be more predators down there than up here, especially on such a hot day. Oh, Wendy's moving herself. So you can see just on the top of her head those beautiful intact tufts on her ossicones. So that's where you'd see the biggest difference between male and female. That's where the male would be completely bald, right on the top of those tufts. So basically that little black pom-pom would be missing. I wonder what she's hearing. So that is one massive advantage that giraffes have that a lot of other animals don't, is having a bit of a bird's eye view of the area, where a lot of other animals wouldn't be able to spot a predator because it's hiding behind a bush or a tuft of grass. A giraffe might be able to because it has a different angle. So it is an advantage. I know she's not in the best spot at the moment, but because she is moving, I don't want to move just yet. I just want to see where she decides to go first, because I think she is going to carry on walking forwards. So I'm definitely going to stick around and see what she does, just because she is staring quite fixedly towards that drainage line. Maybe I might hear some alarm calls if I'm lucky. So she's actually surprised me a little bit. She's walking towards the drainage line still, even after staring that way. But maybe that stare was just affirming in her mind that there wasn't anything there to worry about. So I think she's actually going to spend the rest of the day in that drainage line because it is so hot. I think that's definitely where I'd be if I was a giraffe. I'd either be in the shade next to a water hole or down in the drainage line. I would definitely say the drainage line is a better bet though. And that's because other animals are going to be attracted to the water holes, things like predators. So probably a slightly safer option, because there are so many drainage lines and they're quite dense, to just kind of hide there in the shade. Alrighty. So we are going to bumble and see what pops up for the rest of the drive. It is still very hot. I can already feel myself burning in the sun. So it's another gorgeous day in Africa. How lucky am I that I get to do this? So So this is actually the drainage line where I very surprisingly met Muluwati the other day, the ghost of Djuma, who decided to pop up and surprise me. And so I have a lucky feeling about starting here today. But I definitely think it is going to be a good day, regardless. Lots of nice new growth happening, and that's very, very exciting for me.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. As you can see, we've just stopped at a waterhole. It's going to be the order of the afternoon to start with, and we'll try and see if we can find something that's lurking. Hopefully there'll be a spotty cat at one of the dams, or some elephants, or even some buffalo. Whatever may come our way, I'm sure it'll be good. My name's Tristan. On camera, I've got Morgan. Did you even get it in frame?
I did.
Are you sure?
Yeah, almost sure.
Okay. Sometimes Morgan misses his, his coordination sometimes lacks. Oh, I don't even have a screen. I don't even know what you're pointing at half the time. What you looking at?
The algae.
Ah, so as you can imagine, things are just gone kind of bad to worse this afternoon. This morning we had a few issues on Rusty. Rusty was being a bit bratty this morning, and has started off the afternoon in full tantrum mode. The monitor's not working, signal's been a little bit up and down, so this is going to be an interesting drive. Morgan's going to probably throw me under the bus multiple times during the course of this, but we'll see how we go. Hey.
Oh, actually, you're a giraffe.
Yeah, giraffe. Yeah. In your pop-up book. Anyway, what you're seeing there is algae, everybody. It's blue. It's not blue-green algae, but it's a type of algae that's formed on this particular water surface. I'm not sure which one. Sometimes we get this kind of red that builds up on the surface. It doesn't normally last very long, and then it's gone, and it's always at the end of the winter periods when it gets very, very dry. You can actually see how this dam has dried a lot since the summer months, and I'm surprised actually we haven't found more at this particular dam. It's a nice little dam, particularly for things like leopards. It's got a drainage line that runs into it like most dams would, a nice dam wall, and then it's got like a little sheltered cove just below here with shade, and it's like the perfect spot for a leopard just to lie down and wait for things to come. A lot of animals come and drink here, a lot of impala, a lot of elephant. Obviously it's not going to be a leopard's diet, but duiker, steenbok, unless you Marips, of course, which means elephants and everything else is fair game. You don't have to worry about that, so maybe he should come here. You can actually see the mud wallow in the far corner where there's that starling and lapwing, where elephants have come in to mud wallow. All right, talking about lapwings and starlings, it sounds like Tessa and Chris are looking at a bird, so let's send you across to them.
Welcome back, everybody. So Kurt actually spotted this beautiful African Harrier Hawk that's just found itself something to eat. And you can see it's perched in the branches of the tree there. And it's feeding on something, although we can't figure out quite yet what it is. It actually flew in, grabbed something off of that same tree it's feeding on, and then landed on the branch to eat it. So although it's not a wild dog kill, it is at least still one kill down for the day. Kurt's giving me the thumbs up. It's an absolutely beautiful bird. Very, very big in terms of raptors around here, and definitely one of the more common ones that we see, especially on its own, flying around. This bird sits at about 63 centimeters tall. I'd love to know, oh, now it's cleaning its beak a little. I'd love to know what it got. Probably something like a skink or a lizard, maybe even a small snake. I can't imagine there must have been much else climbing up the tree. In my mind, I'm just seeing a lizard sunbathing on the edge of the tree. How incredible would it be to have this bird fly off so we can see it? There we go, its wings. Love it. And there it is, landing on the next tree, looking for the next snack. Amazing. I don't think we can get a better view than that of something eating. And now it's decided, oh, I'll take it back. We get another good view. It's decided to move and look for some more. So whatever snack that was, I'm guessing it was a skink or a lizard. Definitely wasn't big enough for this bird. African Harrier Hawks are one of the most unusual raptors in the sense that they hunt in a very different way. They can swoop down onto the floor and pick something up, but they are actually more likely to spot things on the sides of trees and come in and grab them. Amazing. So it'll be very interesting to see, you know, if this is a territorial one. I have actually seen an African Harrier Hawk around here a few times, and so I'm sure it might be the same one. Unreal. All right, I think I'm going to leave that African Harrier Hawk and carry on down towards the dam, but I think that's a pretty good start so far. Well spotted, Kurt. Definitely a good start to the day, even with the heat. Hugo would like to know what your favorite bird is.
Come again?
Hugo would like to know what your favorite bird is.
Favorite bird?
It's a tough
Fish
question.
eagle.
A fish eagle. That's amazing. Yeah, I do like those. Very distinct. Thank you, Hugo. Yeah, I think fish eagles are always a good one to see, especially around the water holes. And to hear that call in the mornings and the evenings is nothing like it when you're out in the bush. I'm actually really hoping there might be some elephants down at the dam or on their way to it from the drainage line. So we're just about to arrive at the dam. I wonder if the hippo's back. He wasn't there this morning. Maybe on such a hot day he will be. So far it looks fairly empty, other than the usual bird life. See what we can find on the dam wall. Very eventful. Lots of birds, but the hippo doesn't seem to be here. Right, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of time so I can listen in case there are any interesting birds calling, anything unusual, any signs of animals. But what a view to take in on a hot afternoon. You can see a red-billed buffalo weaver's nest right up at the top of that dead tree. quite a few Birchall starlings around, and our resident blacksmith lapwing, and a fork-tailed drongo that seems to be dipping itself to cool off. There you can see it. Oh, coming to dip again. So you can imagine being a blackbird is not easy when it's this hot out. They have a lot of heat building up in the body, and so sometimes it is essential to have a swim. I must say I might be a little bit envious. I think that would be lovely. It's actually still skimming across the top of the water in loops. So it looks like the blacksmith lapwing has not been sitting on the nest again. This morning when I came past, she was also just standing and walking along the side. Oh, there's some elephants coming down. There's some elephants coming down. Yay! Oh, there is nothing better than that determined look of an elephant as it runs towards a waterhole. Oh, I think we're going to see some antics. I can't wait for the sounds of the splashing. Oh, this is a big herd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. At least 11 elephants. 12. Oh, and there's some little calves too. You might find as they approach the water, they're going to come running in. And one or two of the bigger females might just give it a little bit of a once-over, looking around to see if there's any danger, and then everyone's just going to rush at the water. Oh, look at that tiny calf. That is so cute. Wow. Let's have a listen to the sounds. Looks like there might be 20 elephants in total, and they're even swimming. I agree with all of you. This is incredible. I'm loving this. It's been a good while since I've seen a proper elephant swimming and mud bathing session. And all the noise. Oh. Even the adults are swimming. It's just a pile of elephants. see some of them. It's just a mess. They're creating a whole lot of ripples that are coming splashing towards me here on the dam wall. Oh, the little baby's climbing out as well. Not quite so sure of the water, this one. Taking it slow. It got chased out of the water by another male. Madison, you're 9 years old and you're asking if baby elephants can swim. They probably can't swim so well at birth, but they definitely do get better as they get older. Luckily, mom is always close by, or usually very close by, and so mom will actually just guide the calf as it's learning to swim. Elephants are actually fairly decent swimmers, even though they are so big, and usually the water holes are still quite shallow, and so it won't be a concern for a baby near a water hole. With so many elephants around you to protect you, I think even if you're not so confident about swimming, there's always a helping trunk somewhere to pull you back up. Definitely didn't look like the herd was concerned about the little ones in that big puddle of elephants. There's a lot of action going on. And just like that, the swim session is over. How unbelievable was that? Listen to how quiet it is again. Giving him full workout here, he's got to try and turn towards the back of the vehicle. Oh, tiny baby. And now everybody's having a bit of a dust bath, it seems. So this is actually really, really important for elephants, especially when you're nice and wet like this. You've cooled the body down. And so then it becomes very important for them to pick up dust. They even kick it loose with their feet, pick it up, and then start throwing it all over their bodies. And that will help as a bit of a barrier to the sun, but also to things like insects, which might try and take up a residence on an elephant's body. Unbelievable. That was amazing. My mind is blown. It was just like this stampede of elephants just rushing in, massive action, and now all of a sudden, quiet again. Absolutely perfect. And just like that, they've all disappeared into the bush. Unbelievable. I think you're a good luck charm, Kurt. That was amazing. Okay, now I'm happy. Now I can leave the dam and we can head on to try and find you some wild dogs, Kurt. With your luck, it might actually happen. All right, let's head on towards some more drainage lines. Maybe the same herd of elephants will pop up at the next dam. Bumble, I'm going to send you over to Mike, who is doing a bushwalk, and he's very excited to say good afternoon.
Everyone, so it's we are here trying to find something interesting to talk about when we started, but it seems like every rock I was pulling over had absolutely nothing underneath it, and it made me look a bit silly because I said to BK, don't worry about it, we'll find something to talk about. And then he was like, what are we talking about, Mike? We are here. Hi everyone, my name is Mike Anderson, behind the camera is BK, and this is Eco Training's Pride Lands Conservancy, where we've come to a new area. We have managed to get some wheels, and we are out and about in a place called Eightspun, which is one of the highest points on Pride Lands, where historically ox wagons would have formed a bit of a circle in defense against wild animals in the area as the people were moving through this area. So we're actually at that site, the Eightspun site, just busy turning over logs and stones and all sorts of little things to try and find some interesting bits to talk about. So far, we're not having much luck, but this is pretty interesting. It's a dead tree with lots of holes in it. And any of these holes might well be home to critters. There's a what? A flutterby. BK has found a thing. He's found a creature. Oh no, it flew. BK, what do you know about butterflies? You know that when you talk about them, they'll fly away. Classic. Let me turn over this rock over here. This rock over here looks like it's going to have something underneath it. Let's have a look. Come on, rock. Do me proud. Nothing. There's more rocks underneath this rock. Okay. The search continues. Of course, that's what it's like sometimes in the bush, especially at this time of year. It's so incredibly dry, and today is very hot as well. So we probably will head back down to a waterhole at some point this afternoon. But for now, we still want to just move around a new area, because you know what? It's good to explore. Sometimes it's nice to stick to tried and tested methods. Sometimes it's good to have a curious mind. BK, there's another rock over here. I'm telling you, BK, this is the rock. This is the one that's going to have that beautiful creature underneath it. Nothing. Oh, there is some small stuff here. Some small beetles here.
There's something here?
Oh, there's a little millipede on the bottom of the rock.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's black.
Oh, there, that's a cockroach. Okay, so we found another cockroach. Oh, it wants to hide though. It's very hot. There you go. Oh, Francesco, that hyena did... Oh, okay, I don't want to squash this little cockroach. That hyena did move through camp during the night. I don't think it stole anything. Did it steal anything last night? Not that we know of, but then again, it probably will. But we'll head back down to that waterhole for the sunset, because it's always nice to see what animals come down at the last moment. And Francesco, if we see that hyena again, it's going to be great, because after we said goodbye to you yesterday, we then, started walking back towards the camp, and it came straight towards us. I mean, I felt like we needed to switch the cameras all back on quickly to grab it, because it was literally 5 meters in front of us. It just walked right up and was very curious. Much more curious than this little cockroach that seems very nervous. So I'm going to cover it back up again, because it will quickly be snapped up by something like a lilac-breasted roller. It's desperately trying to stay out of the heat. So I'm going to just put this back down gently to give him a little bit of a home. Don't want to squash him. So there you go, Mr. Cockroach. You stay in there. And let us keep on a little bit of a bumble here. It's very thick in this environment. Oh, look at this little thing. It's not often that we get to see them so small, because normally they get absolutely snapped up by creatures. But look over here. This beautiful green plant here is called a buffalo thorn, and this is one of the most nutritious of all the trees and plants that you can get. And this one was completely destroyed by an elephant at some point, pushed over, and it's now dead. But as you can see, there must have been some roots still in the ground allowing it to survive. And this tastes a lot like, well, depending on where you're from, it tastes like rocket salad, or some people call it arugula or rucola if you're from the German side of the world. Okay, let me take this one leaf here and get a little taste. It's a nice, shiny, fresh, succulent-looking leaf with a thorn on it. Don't want that. That is good. Spicy one, actually. I'm going to actually have another one because that was so good. This stuff is great. It's so thirst-quenching as well on a hot day like today. It's got this spiciness, this kind of zestiness to it. So when you eat it, it really makes your mouth water, and it really kind of sates some of that thirst that you get. Wonderful buffalo thorn, Ziziphus mucronata. It's really a good tree to remember. Also great if you're somehow needing to escape from a lion, because if you put your back to this tree, like I'm doing right now, it's very difficult for a lion to get behind you. This thing will stop almost anything from getting through. It has got wicked sharp thorns. I don't know if you can see some of those thorns there, BK. You can choose any of them really, but those ones look quite wicked and sharp. Look at those. And those are not soft. Those are very spicy, sharp thorns. Hooked ones and straight ones. So if they get you, you'll be feeling it. Nice one. Let's keep gandering, shall we? We're not moving over a huge area at the moment because we're trying to turn over every rock and twig that we can to see what cool stuff there is. So while we do a bit of searching, we'll send you off to one of the other live locations, probably Djuma. And if we find something cool, we'll let you know.
Mike, I hope you managed to find some of your creepy crawlies today. It's always a lot of fun. I've actually just arrived at Twin Dams and it looks like there's some impalas coming down to drink. So we seem to be having all the luck with water holes today because it is so hot. So it's a fairly small herd of impalas. One male and it looks like 5 females so far. And you can imagine they would be a lot more nervous than an elephant when coming down to the water's edge because of things like crocodiles. You can actually also see some vervet monkeys in the background that are moving around a log there. Also out on a sunny day. And that monkey just seems to be sitting and grooming itself, which is a very, very normal occurrence for monkeys. So vervet monkeys are one of the very social animals. They tend to hang around impalas a lot. They'll even hang around things like kudus. And that's all in the hopes of getting some scraps. So if the impala finds something tasty, they can maybe chase the impala away and steal it. But I think they were probably also quite hot and hanging around near the waterhole. Moving off quite quickly in the opposite direction to the impalas. It's just absolutely beautiful to see so much life at the dam.
So we have struck gold, proverbial gold, when it comes to bushwalks and safaris on foot. We found a little what looks like a Europlectes. In fact, it might be more than one. I think it's 2 Europlectes. Okay, you can see here is the skin, the shed skin of this Europlectes, and the scorpion itself is right over there. But I can see another one. I don't know if you can see. Oh, sorry. Just close to the chelicera of the scorpion, there's another scorpion's tail. It looks like a green colored tail, so there might even be 2 different species of scorpion in here, potentially. Now I think this scorpion is called a Europlectes, which is one of the medium venomous scorpions, not particularly dangerous. It is, it can give a painful sting, wouldn't be so pleasant. In fact, it's exactly the same species that we found on bushwalk a few days ago. Tiny pincers, which is generally a sign that they've got fairly strong venom, quite a thick tail, but the tail is not extremely thick, so I think this is a Europlectes, not a Parabuthus. A Parabuthus is one of the real bad baddies. But check this skin out. I want to pull this out of the way without getting stung by the scorpion. Let me just grab it. I'm going to put it on this rock here for you, BK, so you can see it a bit clearer. Check that scorpion skin out. Check how it stands up there. That's how it stands when it's in a threat... Classic. Of course that was going to happen. That's how it stands when it's in a threat posture. And from here you can really see that really super sharp tail. It's like a hypodermic needle. That thing will pierce you and inject a little packet of venom that will not be pleasant at all. So those pincers are literally just for holding the prey, and the tail will lash forward, injecting a neurotoxic venom that will immobilize its prey, and then it can start to feed on it. How cool is that? You can see where it burst out of the front of its exoskeleton there to grow. I'm going to put this back down and then have a look back at those two scorpions. Interesting that there would be two and two different colors. So I can't tell if it's two different species. Oh, sorry, my hat's getting all up in the way there. Can't tell if it's two different species. But I suspect that it is. I want you to come out. You see the tail there of the second one, eh? There's the tail. Cool, there's two different types of scorpions in there. One might just be a bit older. I think this one's just freshly shed its skin. That's why it's a bit darker in color and a bit more colorful. This one's a bit more dull. So I'm not going to dig this one out, because I don't want to disturb it. It's trying to hide. Johan, that's a good question, and potentially anything can be potentially fatal or deadly to us, depending on our specific, susceptibility, how allergic the reaction we might get to their venom. For example, a bee is a super tiny thing, right? If I got stung by a bee, it would be painful and I wouldn't like it very much. But if someone who was allergic to bee venom would be stung, they would probably die, depending on how allergic they were, right? Same with scorpions. I think their venom is quite similar to that of bees, and so certain people might be more allergic to them or not. In fact, I've been bitten, I just said the cardinal sin. I've been stung by a scorpion just such as this one, a Europlectes, and it was on the inner thigh, and it gave me a very tingly leg. It was very uncomfortable. In fact, for that day, I just kind of got permission to lounge around all day and relax whilst everyone brought me food, which was great. But that's about all that happened. Maybe I got a bit of a headache, a little bit of a dry mouth. That's it. But a Parabuthus this size, the really venomous scorpion, that one probably will cause you concern. You might have to go to the doctor for that one. This one you wouldn't necessarily need to. But I'm going to cover them back up just because it is a very hot day, and this one has just shed its skin, meaning that its protective covering is weakened. It's still quite soft, and it needs to stay out of the worst of the heat, otherwise it will desiccate, it will dry out. So I want to just cover it up a little bit. Nicole, I actually don't know how often they'll shed their skin, but it'll be fairly often. It depends on how much food they have. It depends on how much they eat, because, they shed their skin in order to grow. So if it's very cold and they're not eating too much and they're not metabolizing very much, then they won't grow very quickly and will shed much slower. But I'd say, a couple of times a year at least, 2 or 3 times a year. I don't know. Maybe if any of the viewers at home have scorpions as pets, they could educate me about that. So please send your comments and questions through to us here at WildEarth, using the WildEarth Explorers page, or if there are any kids with scorpions as pets, you could send them at kids questions at wildearth.tv. We'd love to hear it. I'm just going to cover them up now. As you can see, this rock here has a bit of a depression, which is where they were underneath, so I don't want to squash them. So I'm just going to make sure this depression goes directly over where those scorpions were. Joshua, they definitely do sting each other. So these two scorpions are clearly, maybe a male and a female, perhaps of the same species, or definitely of the same species, I would assume, and so they don't seem to be too bothered. They, in fact, probably found each other there as they went to hibernate or estivate, and that's why they're there. But definitely, they will eat and kill each other if they're different species, or even sometimes the same species. I've heard, and I'm not sure if this is true, that scorpions will sometimes sting, a male scorpion will sting a female to subdue her So he'll inject a neurotoxic venom into her to calm her down and make her a bit more lethargic so he can literally mate with her. How crazy is that? And then to mate, it's very romantic, right? The male leaves a sperm packet on the ground. He just literally leaves a packet of sperm on the ground. Then he picks up the female with his chelicera or his pedipalps or his pincers and picks her up and places her directly on the sperm packet. Isn't that romantic, hey? And he just makes sure that it gets inserted in properly, and then happy days. He carries on his merry way. Okay, there you go. Scorpions are successfully covered nice and gently with that hollow over the top of them. I love it when a plan comes together. We were looking for a scorpion. We found a scorpion. Now let's go and find some spiders, some centipedes, some other creepy crawly things. I don't know. How about you guys tell me what you'd like to see? Tell me what you want me to try and find, and I'll see what I can do. Right, so from this couple of lovebirds there underneath that rock, we'll send you over to Tristan with a herd of animals.
We're going
Only
now.
go there.
So myself and Kurt are actually just chatting about the incredible stuff that you can see out here in the bush, and we're just driving through this little riverbed and bumped into another herd of elephants. And it just seems that we are having a ridiculously lucky afternoon. I think Kurt might be the lucky charm. This is a beautiful big female. She's actually busy chewing the bark off of a very big branch that she broke off of the jackalberry to her left. But I can hear other elephants moving on the bank. You can see the occasional flap of an ear. So I think we're actually surrounded by a whole herd through this drainage line. And I was actually on my way here to look for Mrs. Wig. But it seems I got a bargain because I got some elephants too. And so this is why we say the afternoons are amazing for driving in the riverbeds, because it's nice and cool. There's plenty of food. And there's a little bit of a breeze that gets funneled through. Wow. She is very intent on some bark today. You can kind of see there is a bit of a breeze catching some of the plants. Where I'm sitting at the moment and where she is, oh, she dropped it. The breeze isn't quite as strong, but higher up, so just towards the top of the tree line in this drainage line, there's a lovely wind. You can see the leaves blowing consistently. And so I'm sure as the day goes on, the sun is actually just about to, wow. The sun is just about to go behind these trees, and so it'll be beautiful and cool down here. She is very adamant on getting those branches. She's actually kind of moved herself halfway up that bank just to get them. Wow. I wonder if she's just taking a break before she eats it. Ah, there we go, she's picking it up. So it almost looks like she's getting the bottom branches, but possibly trying to even get to the roots of those plants, because there's a lot of roots that are coming down the side of the bank. And they would hold a lot more water than the bark and the cadmium layer does. Right, so while we enjoy sitting with this elephant, watching her get her water fix for the day, let's have a look at our upcoming fireside chat happening this Sunday, the 26th of September.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
Right, so I was actually just saying to Kurt, I might want to reposition a little bit, just up the bank here, just so I can try and see her face. But you can actually see now there's another little elephant that's come in behind her. And it seems to be trying to maybe imitate Mom, but just on the very much smaller branches. And they're in the perfect spot. Look at that shade that they're in compared to the sun that we are currently sitting in. So she has actually, she's put the big log down and she's just almost breaking little bits off and then repositioning it. She's actually using her feet and her tusks to do that. See there, she breaks off a little piece and puts that in her mouth just so it's a bit more manageable. And so what she actually does is she stands on one piece and then she wedges the branch that she wants to break in between her tusk and her trunk, and she just turns her head to the side and it just snaps the branch, and then she can put that back into her mouth. And then the rest of it is safely on the floor. There comes the little one. So that elephant that's next to her is actually quite large to not have tusks. And so this is very likely one of the elephants that has the genes for smaller tusks. There have been quite a lot of elephants recorded recently that have the genes for no tusks at all. A lot of elephants are starting to come out without tusks, and they never develop tusks. And that's quite a serious adaptation to have, and I can't even see a little tip of white. Nothing where her tusks should be. And so this is actually, unfortunately, an after effect of poaching, because all of the elephants that have the biggest tusks have been hunted out. And so the only elephants that are left to pass on their genes are, unfortunately, elephants without tusks or with very small tusks. So over time it changes. Hyun, they're actually not looking for nutrients when they are chewing on the bark. What she's actually doing, she's taking the bark off to get to the water. So just below the bark of a tree, it's the layer just underneath the outer protective layer of bark, is called the cambium layer. And that is the layer that is responsible for sending water from the roots that's absorbed from the soil up to the leaves of the tree, where they can then photosynthesize and make food. And then if the tree is storing any food, it would also transport the food from the leaves back down to the roots in the same layer. At the moment, though, her main goal is definitely water. And so a lot of an elephant's water comes from chewing off the bark. You'll see they get the whole branch completely clean of bark. They chew on it to suck the water out. They might swallow the bark for roughage. If they feel that they have enough roughage, they sometimes even take it out of their mouths with their trunk and spit it out. So it's actually more water, and that's very typical on a day like today, because it is, I would say, at least 35, 36 degrees Celsius. I don't think it's a 32 degrees Celsius day. I think it's a lot hotter. But it's very interesting that the elephants know that that's what they need to do, and this is adapted over many years of survival in dry environments. You can imagine this is actually one of the toughest times for an elephant out here. We're at the end of winter, we're now started with spring, but yet we haven't had enough rain that there is ample green grass around. Not all of the trees have leaves, and the water holes are drying up. And elephants are quite fussy about the water that they drink. They want to drink the cleanest water that they can. And so this is a particularly tough time. You've still got to get in enough water, and you've got to get in enough food. And yet the season hasn't changed enough for there to be enough food very easily, or enough water. And so this is actually probably the most activity we see from elephants is in this period of time, where they are changing over in season and are still having to move even further than they did in winter to get enough food and water. And they've really got to concentrate on doing it. And so that's why she is being so careful with that branch, making sure she's taken every little strip of bark off. It's actually very interesting to watch elephants and how their behavior changes seasonally, and even through weather changes throughout the day. A young one is definitely trying to learn from her. You can see it's watching what she's doing, and it's getting very close. And there's a beautiful brown-hooded kingfisher that seems to have picked up on the fact that as these elephants are feeding, there's insects flying through. And so you can see it kind of hopping around just above her, and every now and then flying into the frame to try and pick up some food. There's a beautiful shot of the kingfisher. So it's actually perched just above her, towards her rump, and it's coming down to catch insects. So the little one is actually picking up little remnants off the floor, and these would be pieces that the mom has dropped or branches that she's already done with, and it moves its trunk up and down each branch to sniff and gather information. And then it might imitate. Or, for example, if mom is busy feeding and she drops a piece by accident, that's what baby will pick up to eat. And I really am genuinely shocked that this elephant has no sign of any tusks coming in. There isn't even, so normally on an elephant of that size, even if the tusks aren't fully out, you'd see a bump under the skin. Safari lover, an elephant's teeth are incredibly strong. Wow. She is really reaching up there. There we go. So they are incredibly strong teeth, and you can imagine they have to be, if they're chewing on big branches, chewing through bark, and the amount of food alone that they have to eat. It's actually really interesting, but plant material is very difficult to break down, and so an elephant's teeth are probably its most important body part in terms of feeding, other than maybe the trunk, because if you can't chew the food properly, you can't break down the cell wall, which is the outer part of the plant that we can see, and then each cell of the plant has that cell wall, and they've got to break it down to be able to access any of the nutrients. So the teeth are incredibly important, and that's why elephants have, unlike every other animal, 6 sets of teeth that they go through in their life. You can imagine with that much wear and tear happening every day, 200 kilograms worth of food that you're having to chew. It wears down after about 10 years, and then the next set comes in and lasts another 10. And so that's why most elephants will also die of starvation, because when they get to the last set of teeth and those wear down, they can no longer break down the plants before it gets to the stomach and the digestive system. And so what happens is, majority of the time, it will come out completely whole. The elephant will lose condition, and over time it'll starve. And it's unfortunately not a very pleasant end for elephants in that sense. It's also the concept of why people used to say there are elephant graveyards, because a lot of older elephants will gravitate towards each other. They stop following on with the herd because they can't keep up in the later stages of starvation. And the only way to try and get some nutrients in is to go to water holes and start eating aquatic plants because they're softer, and trying to fill the belly with that and water. And then they might end up dying close to a water hole, and they'll all gravitate usually towards the same one because there are enough nutrients and water there, or at least the best chance of survival there, and they end up dying in the same place. So that's actually where the concept of an elephant graveyard came from. And all of that from a question about teeth. I got very sidetracked. Jade, I think you're asking how do elephants get all of the protein that they need, although I could be wrong, FC, I don't know if it was protein or calcium, but basically everything an elephant needs will come from its diet, and so they'll try and diversify. Calcium, thank you. Thank you so much. So to get enough calcium in an elephant's diet, they would have to feed on specific plants. So you'll see an elephant doesn't only eat grass, it will also eat fruits, it will eat seeds. It will also sometimes put things like old bones in its mouth if it needs to get some calcium. Also things like soil. Every now and then you might see an animal eating soil. So it all comes from a very varied diet that includes leaves, branches, roots, fruits, seeds, grasses, and then the occasional added supplement dose from, other things like tasting old bones. That's much more common in giraffes than in elephants, but it definitely has happened. But for an elephant, you can imagine if your digestive system only manages to get through 30% of the food that you put in, it's got to be a varied diet to get enough nutrients from all of that. So you'll very rarely see an elephant only feeding on one thing throughout the day. It's a very interesting question. Alright, so I'm definitely going to spend a few more minutes here just to see what these elephants do. Hopefully they move out of the drainage line at some point, otherwise I'll just have to go around. So I actually just want to take a little bit of time to listen to the sounds. I'm hoping she breaks some more branches for you to hear that cracking sound again. But there are quite a few birds that have started calling as well. And it's a great area because of the tall trees and the shaded spots of the drainage line. Let's have a listen. You can see her ears have not stopped moving this whole time, and she's just trying to keep cool as much as she's in the shade. She's spending quite a lot of energy with that feeding, breaking branches. So she still needs to make sure that she is flapping those ears to get a breeze going behind them to try and cool her blood down. I actually can't hear or see any other elephants anymore, so they might have moved off away from the drainage line. There is a dam close by, so I'm wondering if they're not going to head down that way just now. I certainly would if I was an elephant. I think my whole day as an elephant would consist of eating, which it normally does anyway, and then going to the watering holes to have a swim, and then coming back to the drainage lines and eating again. Absolutely magical to spend time with her and her calf, though.
More creepy crawlies. I know you all love bushwalks. I know you love these little creepies. So we found... No, come back, spider. Oh, it just caught something. No, it didn't. It's just down there. Do you still see it, PK? It's just there moving around. It's busy making itself super camouflaged. Oh, my word. That's crazy. It just moved off the pale bark and pale wood and went to the bark. Do you see it there, PK?
Oh, yeah, I can see it, yeah.
It's crazy well camouflaged. Holy moly. I mean, it's almost invisible. So that is one of potentially two different types of spider, and I don't really know which one. Both are completely harmless to humans. Both are just eating flies and other types of small insects, mosquitoes. It could be a long-spinned bark spider, or it could be one of the two-tailed spiders. Could also be, I mean, it's just difficult to tell because they all look so incredibly similar. But basically, I think it's Tamopsin species or Hercilia species. And one of the defining characteristics is, first of all, the color. Of course, that gray color is quite common to all of the different families. And then they've got, interestingly, the first two sets of legs are very long. The third set of legs is incredibly short. And then it's got the fourth set of legs is long again. And then those two little tails at the end there, which could be spinnerets, where they spin silk. Or it could be maybe maybe like a way of distracting a predator. Maybe the predator attacks the back end rather than the top end. I don't know. It's a very interesting shape. I've never seen that before. And it creates usually a little silken sac underneath the bark like this, where it uses as a refuge and where it lays its eggs. But that's super amazing to see such a cool little spider. And that's... Ooh, here is... No, I thought I could see it's... I think this might be the ecdiced skin from the spider. You see just the tip of my stick there? There's a little bit of a fluffy skin, like a exoskeleton. I think this might be from the spider. The spider has probably lived here for a very, very long time. I say a very long time. I don't think this particular species of spider can live an extremely long time. Maybe just a year or two. But still very interesting to see. It's unbelievable, the camouflage. I'm going to put my stick just so BK about 2 centimeters in front of my stick is the spider. That's crazy camouflage, right? I mean, unless we saw it move, like it just so happened that as I was checking the bark on these things, it moved and ran from my stick. Because that's what I do. I generally rub my stick very slowly along the bark to see if anything moves. It ran onto the bare wood, and that's how I could see it. But now, I mean, if it hadn't have moved, it's perfectly camouflaged. I mean, absolutely perfect. It doesn't get any better than that. Sorry about the noise. There's a game counting helicopter that's about to fly over us. If you hear that, it is one of the people doing reserve work around this area, Pride Lands and the surrounding game reserves, keeping our reserve safe and also counting animals, getting an idea of censuses, animal numbers, that kind of thing. I wonder if there's any way for us to count how many spiders and other types of creepy crawlies there are. I know, right? It's unbelievable. But you know, this camouflage is so important because this has not got any weapons, really. A bird can eat this thing and it's got absolutely no defense. Its only defense is its camouflage and the fact that it can hide under the bark. It's flat. So that's literally all it has. So it has to be camouflaged. Now, I know you all said, or a lot of you have expressed an interest in trying to find chameleons and dung beetles. So we'll do our best over the next few days and weeks and months to try and find that. Is that the sun was a bit harsh there, hey? Let me come this side there, BK, so I can speak to everyone. So we'll do our best over the next few days and weeks to try and find these things. Remember, it is the summertime, or it's rather coming to the summer. It's very hot at the moment, and so the chances of us trying to be able to find those things is tricky until it starts raining. Once there's plenty of bugs around and the rain has fallen and everything is nice and moist, lots more of that stuff will start coming out. But we'll keep looking. Don't you worry about that. We've just taken shelter underneath this tree because there's loads and loads of loose bark that we can try and find stuff. Oh, whilst we do search around here a little bit longer, we'll send you over to Tessa, who's found that awesome spotted eagle owl.
In front of the TV.
So this is my twice daily check-in on Mrs. Wig. She is still sitting on her nest as expected and actually only about 20 meters from the elephant, looking completely relaxed and undisturbed. Absolutely beautiful to see her. She hasn't even moved the positioning of her body since this morning. Still sitting facing the same direction with her head just resting. And in the background you can hear that elephant still breaking branches. But I just love this position. I feel like Mrs. Wig has it all sorted out here. A spotted eagle owl in the most perfect little position for a nest. So I haven't seen Mr. Wig yet, although I would think he is in a nearby tree. It actually looks like she's done a few renovations on the nest during the day. It looks like there is a little bit more debris in front of her. So maybe she cleared it out a little bit more than she had. I really hope she opens her eyes properly so you can see the beautiful bright orange. It's often the only way you can spot these birds because they're so camouflaged. I also love that little bit of sun catching her one ear tuft. Just changing the color to look like a leaf. You can see she's definitely very comfortable. I feel like I'd be very lucky to catch her in a position where she's not on the nest and maybe she's leaving or coming back. And that would give us a great chance to actually see what's in the nest. I'd love to see how many chicks end up hatching and watching a chick grow through to maturity, hopefully. Hopefully she is successful this year. Definitely hear a lot more elephants in the background. So it seems like the drainage lines are the place to be. She doesn't seem bothered at all though. She's just carrying on with her snooze. think it would be very interesting to kind of think back and try and figure out when she actually started sitting on the nest, when the eggs may have been laid, because then we know about a month, then you should start seeing little ones. But I have no idea how long she's been sitting here. But I do feel like now that I know she's here, it's definitely part of every day for me. Every drive will be to come and check on her. Oof, I have no idea what age she would stop producing eggs at. Most raptors probably live to about 30 years old, maybe a little bit older. I would imagine she would be producing eggs right up until the year that she dies. I would think. Birds are so well adapted. They're not quite like the mammals where things start to slow down exponentially. They're actually a little bit more well adapted to old age. So I'm hoping that she would have eggs right the way up until she dies, but I actually don't know. I might have to have a look into that and see if there is a specific age. It's very difficult with birds. They're not as well studied as the mammals, and it's very, very difficult to keep track of one particular bird for a long time. And even if you could track one, you need more than one individual that you're tracking to make the data seem more reliable, because one could be the exception. So you want to kind of get the averages, and I'm actually not sure how many spotted eagle owls they've studied in order to find their laying dates and things like that. I'll have a look on the birding app later as well and see if maybe they might know. Very good question. Charlize, the average for these birds is anywhere between 1 and 6 eggs that are laid at a time. I want to guess and say she might have 3. I don't know if I'd be correct though. We'd actually have to wait and see. But I think I want to bet on 3. It's actually very interesting, especially when the eggs hatch. They actually hatch from the first egg that was laid, will be the first to hatch, and it kind of goes periodically. And it's just so interesting to watch how they change over time. Because it'll only take more or less, another month or so after they've hatched for them to actually leave the ground nests. So it's very, very quick. They will stay kind of near the nest. They're not going to kind of just run off and try and be adults on their own. They stay near the nest, but they won't actually go back to the nest. But in fact, the breeding success, so kind of how successful the chicks are, is probably one of the most poorly documented kind of processes, especially in spotted eagle owls. It's also lovely to know that with these, it's not as though just because you're the first chick to hatch or the biggest that you're going to kill the other chicks. That actually doesn't happen here. She'll raise as many chicks as she can. And from there, she'll kind of hope that all of them are successful. I know that she was not successful, I believe, with her last nest. I wonder if Mr. Wig is around. He's been hanging out in the same tree for a few days, but he wasn't there this morning. Lucia, actually, yes, Mr. Wig will bring her food sometimes 3 or 4 times a night. He might come and drop off food for her, but she might also leave for very, very brief periods to feed and to defecate. But he should be bringing her food 3 or 4 times a night. That being said, if it's a slow night on food, then I guess she'll go hungry for a little bit longer, or have to make a plan to do it herself. As much as she looks like she's sleeping, she's definitely awake because she heard another vehicle and she turned her head. Then she heard the vehicle start and she turned her head again. So she is awake, she's listening, she's just staying dead still as much as she can to avoid those predators. Absolutely beautiful down here in the riverbed though. I wonder if we can actually try and spot Mr. Wig. That's a good idea. I want to move a little bit forward and see if we can find him. He has been very close by recently. I hope he still is. So Mrs. Wig's nest is just up to my left and Mr. Wig kind of hangs out in the trees up here. Let's have a look. Oh, he is there. You can just see him, but it's quite into the sun. Let's see if we can... There you can kind of see his silhouette. It's not the greatest picture because the sun is in the background, but there's Mr. Wig looking out for Mrs. Wig. Absolutely amazing. I'm very happy that he is back again.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible. It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Uropigeal gland is something the hoopoes have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
I love being a cam op for WildEarth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
We found some interesting little ant action over here on this small broken tree. Now, the ants are probably looking for the sap of this tree. It's very, very sticky sap. It has a milky white latex that is probably quite toxic to us as humans. But, oh, you know what they're looking for? It's aphids. Oh, my word, I've just seen them. If you look here, BK, you'll see them much clearer. Maybe if you come to where I'm standing. See inside there, BK, there's the ants, but then there's also these little black things that look a bit like seeds or whatever on the edge of the stem. On the edge of the stem there. Go back down a bit further, BK. Back down a bit further. Yeah, in there. On the stem, you see those little black things? Those are aphids. And those aphids are what the ants are desperately trying to get the sugary secretions that the aphids secrete from drinking the sap. So the aphids take this toxic substance that's probably not great for the ants, and also ants can't access it. They ingest it, and then they convert it into a sugary substance that the ants just absolutely love. It's a little bit like what bees do. You know, bees eat the pollen and the nectar, and they convert it, they regurgitate it out, they basically vomit it out into honey, and we eat that, we love it. So we basically love bee vomit, which is interesting. Now, the tree itself is also quite cool. So we've seen this kind of interaction many times before with ants and aphids, but it's always at the growing tips of these plants, because that's where all the nutrients, all the growing tip is. That's where the most nutrients is. But if you zoom out a little bit onto this tree there, BK, this tree itself is quite an interesting tree. Now, it's of a species that the genus is Ozaroa, and the most common one that we get here is Ozaroa sphaerocarpa, which is the currant resin tree. This is not a current resin tree, but it is still quite easy to identify in that it has very dark, rough bark, similar to a tambuti. Many of you who have been watching for a while will know that tambuti bark's nice and dark. It usually doesn't grow very tall, and it's usually got a twisted and gnarly appearance, and the young branches often look like sausages that have been overfilled. You know, if you ever have seen a sausage skin, like it's kind of wrinkly. But in any case, all the species look slightly different. They have some similarities, but one thing that is the same for all of them is that they produce a thick, milky white latex. I'll just pull this one down there. You can just see I did break one leaf off just to have a look if I was correct. And you can see just... Sorry there, BK. You can see just at the tip of my stick there's a sticky white latex. Now, one thing that these trees can all be used for is you can collect this sap and you can turn it into glue. Now, you have to be patient. What you would do is you would break a branch off or cut a hole in the bark and leave it for some time, and maybe you'd cut, hundreds of small, tiny holes in the bark so that a little bit of the sap exudes from each of these holes. The sap comes out. It's a protective mechanism. The sap comes out from where it's been damaged. It dries and becomes very sticky, and then another insect or whatever cannot attack through that very hard, sticky substance. But we as humans can collect that. And normally it's quite hard and not really that sticky. But if you take that, bind it together and get a clump of it, and you rub it in your hands and warm it up, it becomes sticky, just like Play-Doh or press stick. I don't know, whatever you call it back home, that white sticky thing that you stick on the wall and you put like posters on. It becomes just like that, or even stronger, like wood glue. And so it's really quite interesting. And I've actually done that down here. I've just drilled a small hole in the trunk there. I don't know if that's easy for you to see there, BK. Just there with my knife, I drilled a tiny little hole, and I just want to see maybe in the next few days if we come back into this area. I'd like to see how much sap might have exuded from this, to see if I could collect some and show you exactly, how sticky it might be. And it's a super interesting one. The practical applications of this in the wild are quite interesting. Now, it's not very palatable for most people to understand this, but of course many cultures lived off the land We're used to going to the shops and buying our food that we need, but people living in this area hundreds of years ago would have to catch birds and other animals in any way they could. And so what they would often do is they would take this sticky substance, and they would know where small birds like Quelea or waxbills will roost at night, and they will smear the sticky substance on the branches. And then when those small birds would land there, they would actually get stuck. They're so small and so light that their feet clamping onto this branch would cause them to be stuck. They could then collect those birds for a variety of purposes, for all sorts of reasons, from food to the feathers, decorations, maybe even ornamental birds, to keep them as pets. So it's very interesting. It's a really cool tree. So that's an Ozaroa species. Alison, sometimes you see us and we get this kind of blank expression, and that's because we're hearing the questions coming through into this little earpiece here. So, Alison, I don't like them to surprise me. So if a spider is on me, thank goodness it hasn't happened whilst I'm live so far, but I tend to jump, as they saw with the baboon spider yesterday when I tried to put the piece of grass in, and I didn't actually see the baboon spider was right close to the entrance, and it leapt out thinking it was prey and tried to catch the grass, and I jumped back, and it was very funny to watch. So, Alison, I'm not really afraid of them, because I understand that they don't want to hurt me, but if they surprise me, I definitely don't like it very much. And I tend not to want to handle snakes. If I have to remove snakes from people's tents or whatever, and I have removed many, I find ways to do it where I do not have to touch them, not even with the snake tongs and things. Usually I just put like a PVC tube with a lid on it. I open the lid, I put the tube in the corner, and I just gently usher the snake, and it usually goes into the tube because it's nice and safe, it's dark and looks safe. Put the lid on, you can take it out. I generally don't want to handle them. They don't want to be handled either, to be fair. So that's really cool. So we got ants, we got sticky tree, ways to find and catch birds. But we're going to send you over to another animal that loves trees, usually a little taller than this one.
So it seems like this drainage line is 100% the place to be. Just around the corner from the elephants and Mrs. Wig is a beautiful big male giraffe. And he is just slowly feeding in the shade. He's chosen a very, very good spot. He's nice and sheltered in a bend of the drainage line. And he is really enjoying his browse this afternoon. So he is quite an old male, and I know that not because of his color, but actually because of the scarring that you can see down his neck, especially kind of just above his shoulder. There's a beautiful clear scar, big round one, and that's definitely from an ossicone, from a fight when he was nicking with another male. You can see there's quite a few smaller ones in the same area. And so this is how I know that he is an older male, because only the males that are old enough to neck will have scars like that. You can see he's got a very thick and powerful neck. And as we get up to the face, you can see that bump just above his eye and just a bit lower as well, halfway down to his nose. Those are also telltale signs that he is quite an old, mature bull. He is having to stretch quite a bit to get to those outermost branches. You can just see the tip of his tongue coming out as he's trying to feed. So he actually had some oxpeckers on him just now. They've moved over to the other side. Oh, I can see one. Let's come back. Just on the ridge there above his shoulder blade, you can see a red-billed oxpecker that is looking for ticks on his body. So these are actually incredibly important birds for giraffes. As much as giraffes are tall, oh, there's another, and they can see very far. It's always great to have some added help when you're looking for predators, and oxpeckers are very, very sharp to movements. They are often one of the first animals that will alert other animals to a predator in the area. They have a very distinct call. And so if animals hear oxpeckers making that call, they'll actually look around and see if there is a predator close by, because oxpeckers won't move for other herbivores unless it's an elephant. It is also an added advantage that they help to get rid of pests. They will help him with ticks. Archie, a giraffe's tongue, depending on its age, will be anywhere from 30 to 45 centimeters long. So a ruler and a half in length, which is quite ridiculous. But you can imagine on him it probably feels very normal. He's got a very long face, he's got an incredibly long neck. And so that tongue has to be very long just to fit in. Giraffes have a very well-adapted tongue for their lifestyle. They're one of the few animals that can eat from a thorn tree without getting any thorns. And that's purely because of the adaptations of the tongue and the long eyelashes too. The eyelashes protect the eyes from any branches or thorns as he puts his face into the middle. And the tongue is very, very thick. The skin of the tongue is very thick. It's very rubbery, and they secrete a lot of saliva. And so while he's feeding, his tongue is very slippery. It's almost got a rubbery feel. And so it just glides over the thorns, but still catches the leaves. It's definitely one of the reasons why giraffes have actually survived, was the tongue adaptation. Be interesting to see how long he feeds here for. I'm sure this tree has already started pushing tannins up to the leaves to try and make them taste bitter. And then he'll probably move further down the drainage line. He's actually very well hidden. Considering how tall he is, you actually can't see his legs very well. Perfectly behind a tuft of grass. But probably one of my favorite things on a giraffe is actually those eyelashes. It sounds very ridiculous, but I've always had a soft spot for eyelashes on a giraffe. Always been envious. Probably not very good to admit that I'm envious of an animal, but I definitely am in quite a few ways out here. And those eyelashes in particular are just so dreamy. It's amazing, all for the basic purpose of protecting the eye, and yet so beautiful. You can see he is not bothered at all about his surroundings. He hasn't stopped to listen once. And that could be for a number of reasons. One, he is quite big and old, so not much is actually going to go for him other than some very brave lions. Two, he's got oxpeckers on his back, which will help him listen out, so he feels a little bit of security from that. Or three, the breeze he feels is strong enough that he can't smell anything in the area to be concerned about. But amazing either way to spend some time with him and watch him feed. I think he's probably going to be here for a while, so I'm going to leave him to it.
We have a beautiful Murula tree now. What you're looking at is a small wound in this tree that I've made just to make a point here. Now, I have made sure not to go all the way through the cambium to the dry heartwood, because the heartwood is then susceptible to damage by other creatures. This part here doesn't get attacked by insects, but check this out. Okay, we often wonder, why are elephants always stripping the bark off these Murula trees? Look how much juice is in there. Can you see that there, BK? Look at all the juice coming out of the bark of this tree, the cambium layer. So that is exactly why elephants like to eat this. Because imagine, it's a dry time of year, extremely dry time of year, and they are struggling to find their moisture requirements through just finding water, because there might not be water around. But every single mouthful of this bark, this cambium, is full of moisture, and not only moisture but also nutrients. This liquid is what is being drawn from the ground, in the water from the ground, and nutrients from the tree. Sugars are mixing, and so this is just a wonderful medley, a cocktail of delicious and nutritious substances for elephants and for many other animals. It's not just elephants that will eat this. Baboons, bush babies, many primates, birds as well sometimes will eat this. A whole host of interesting stuff will eat this. So this is really cool stuff. Now, the tree itself, if we can sort of step back slightly and have a look at this tree. This tree here has been damaged by elephants, as you can see. This is where they have done exactly that. They've taken a tusk and they've gouged into this, taken off some of the bark and chewed it, and I can't see where it is on the ground, but normally they would just chew it and then drop it straight on the ground right there, because they don't want the fiber, they just want the juice. So that's really awesome. I love this tree. This is actually a good one. It's about to start. So I was just mentioning now, this one's actually about to start having leaves. If you look all the way up there, sorry BK, making it difficult for you there. Right at the top there, you can see a few green shoots coming out. So marulas are quite cool in that they flower first, and when the flowers are finished, and they've been pollinated or not, they start having leaves after that. They don't have leaves and flowers at the same time, generally. Now, if I look up there, do I see any of these that are turning into fruits? Not really, not yet. It's a bit too early to know if they're going to turn into fruits. But yeah, lots of flowers about to come out, very few leaves. So that's what's quite interesting. Unlike the false marula, false marulas are often having leaves and flowers at exactly the same time. That's one of the defining characteristics between the two. Okay, and what we were doing before we were looking at this Murula tree, we're trying to find our way back to the car, and we're having a bit of an argument, a discussion, let's call it. I think the car is in one direction. My faithful and trusty backup and camera man are telling me that they think it's not in that direction. So I guess we'll find out, right? So I'm going to walk up this way, and I'm actually just hoping to find a road. And I think it's somewhere up there. I mean, we had people pointing on there. I mean, I'm pretty sure Annette was pointing down to the drainage lines. That's not true. I was probably doing that. Cool, let's walk a little bit and see what we can find. Watch your step, BK. There's lots of sticks and branches. Oh, there's a sickle bush right there. Watch for that one there, BK. Oh, there's a squirrel. Ah, no, I scared it off. I pointed at it. You never point at stuff, Mike. And there was a squirrel on the dead tree there, but I pointed at it. It's actually why I have a stick, so that I don't point at stuff. But anyways, check out everything here in this environment is just covered in spikes. Look at this. This is a flaky bark thorn, or Vachellia exuvialis. It's absolutely covered in these spiny thorns, and this is because it's highly nutritious. This tree is highly, highly nutritious. In fact, all the trees that used to be known as acacias are very nutritious. Leguminous plants which have these pods. And if it didn't have these, it would get hammered. It's a good question. I guess to them, it probably has lots of sugary stuff in it, but it's not necessarily sweet. I kind of want to go and taste that cambium now, but... BK, should we go and taste the cambium? BK's like, no, Mike, don't do that. I was going to lick the end of the stick, but then, because there's lots of cambium on that, but then I realized that I stick this into poo all the time, so I probably shouldn't do that. No, let's go and taste it. I'm going to go and stick my finger in this bark and see what it tastes like. We don't have what?
First aid.
I've got a first aid kit in here. I've got water. I'll rinse my mouth out. I'm sure it's fine. Let's hope I don't have some sort of weird reaction. I've never tasted Murula cambium before. Is it sweet? I doubt it's sweet. I think it's probably kind of... Let's give it a... Oh, but I've been sticking my stick in that now. The poo stick. Okay. Stay safe. Yeah, stay safe, but also show us the things. Okay, I'm going to just open up another piece that I wasn't digging my poo stick into. Okay. Let's take this lovely juicy bit of cambium here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze it so you can see it's got juice in there. See the juice coming out there? It looks a bit like blood. That's not blood. That is the cambium of the Murula Tree. Okay. I'm just going to have a tiny taste because I don't know if it's super toxic or not. I'm just going to have... Oh, look at that. The Mapani bee is a very big fan of it. It landed on my finger immediately. Okay, let me have a little taste there, Mapani bee. Oh, that's dry. Oh, it's like a red wine, but not as tasty. It's not an unpleasant taste, actually. It's just got a lot of tannin in it. You can really feel my tongue is getting super dry. You know, I'm going to go with a solid 5 out of 10 for, like, satisfaction level. It's not something I would do every day, but it's not bad. I think it's a bit like... Yeah, it's like a really cheap red wine. The one that you've left in the fridge for too long. That's kind of turning into vinegar. Yes, I need to... Let's go and get something tasty to drink, shall we? I think I like Black Label much better. Or Castle Light. But, yeah, I mean, so just out of interest, so you might be thinking, why would he put that in his mouth? He doesn't know if it's toxic or not. So one of the ways to test if something is toxic or dangerous for you to eat, you will first apply a bit of the liquid to a sensitive part in your body. And now this stuff is quite a strong antihistamine. And so I have rubbed it on... I'm not going to go into detail about where I've rubbed this stuff, but I've rubbed it on many parts of my body, and it's never caused me to have a reaction of any sort. So that's why I know that it's BK's shocked. So I know that it's not toxic, at least to the outside of my body, and it's not causing me any tingling sensations in my mouth. It's not burning me. So I think we're good, but we'll keep you updated as to my condition. Oh, watch out. Watch your feet there. I do apologize if I overshare at times. I have a tendency to do so. But in the meantime, whilst we try and find our way back to the car, we'll send you over to Tessa.
I certainly can't say I've ever done what Mike has just done, but I can relate to the cheap red wine taste. Can't taste very good. But I'm very happy that Mike did that. It sounds like it was a lot of fun. So I've actually left the drainage line. I am coming back up towards the dam just to see, because there were quite a few elephants moving through the drainage line. Wanted to come and see if they might be here drinking. Looks like they have actually come from the dam. There's tracks coming from the dam over the road back towards the drainage line. So maybe they didn't actually have a swim, they just had a drink. It might have been earlier. But I do still want to check up on the dam wall just to see if there is anything on either side. And then we can go from there. I have officially got no doubt in my mind that it has been a very successful afternoon already. The good luck charm is working. A little bit of magic happening here. Oh, sorry, impalas. I'm just going to let them cross. Because I'm on the dam wall, I don't want to scare them too much, so let them cross over to the other side. Some oxpeckers to go with it. And down they go. So they look like they're going towards the edge of the dam. So let me have a look from up here. Yeah, they are actually drinking. Let's see if we can get that. Quite beautiful to be able to watch them drinking. It's not something that you do actually get to observe that often, you would think, because impalas are quite common that you would see them drinking a lot, but you actually don't. There's also beautiful, big, pregnant bellies there. Especially these two closest to us, you can really see that they are quite heavily pregnant. So I'm sure that they are going to give birth within the next month, month and a half. Oh, that oxpecker's going in her ear. She got quite a fright from that. You can imagine it's nice, soft, unprotected skin in the ear, so it's the easiest place for ticks to gather. And so the oxpeckers will often go in there. I've once seen an oxpecker go up a buffalo's nostril. It didn't even flinch. I can't imagine a bird flying up my nose and me not flinching. I think that would be quite... It probably would be the end of me. I'd probably freak out from the fright of it. You can see everybody has now left the dam. And it's just a beautiful, tranquil view. There is a slight breeze, so you can see how the top of the water has some small ripples, but nothing like we've had for the last week. So this is actually the best afternoon we've had in quite a while. I was a little bit worried this morning because the wind was so strong when we got back. I thought maybe it would continue all day. They actually said there was a small chance of rain too, and seems like there's more than just animal magic happening here. It seems like there's very good luck for the weather too. Absolutely beautiful day to be sitting here. I'm actually looking out for birds now as well. It seems particularly quiet for birds. And that is not normal, so that does catch my attention. Normally this time of the afternoon you'd have quite a few different birds calling and coming down to the watering hole for a splash or a drink, or even just to look for insects. Right, so I think I'm going to spend another minute here just to see if anything else happens, and then I'll carry on and see what else I can find.
RSA has a long history, over 90 years, of being involved and even pioneering aspects of the conservation sector in South Africa. Over that long history, we have realized that all of the issues that we are facing both locally and globally are due to human impact. Therefore, we need to concentrate on working with people, and that is what WESA does. What makes me passionate about the work that we do at WESA, and in particular the work that I engage in, is actually connecting with people. Currently the work that I'm working on is working with youth in a skills development program, and just to meet the youth and to hear their stories and to bring them opportunities that we hope will have some impact on their lives really fuels me to get up every morning. A huge shout out to the women that I work with, as well as to all the women that are contributing hugely within the environmental sector, both in South Africa and in the world.
The scrap here collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then, that was the opportunity of the scrappy. You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
So what I've actually also just noticed, just sitting here, I've seen a few birds flitting around. No excessive bird calls or anything like that. It is quite quiet in terms of birds. Possibly they've already come down and moved off, but also they might have seen something else that they maybe moved towards or away from, either way. But what I definitely have noticed is that there are some more aquatic beetles in the dam. They seem to be kind of moving themselves around again, so they kind of move around in a swirl. So Paul's going to try and zoom in there. There you can just see them on the top of the water, zooming around each other. And it's interesting, I've only seen them on days when the water is fairly calm. Although I suppose when the water isn't so calm, you then wouldn't really notice them on the surface. But just interesting to see that they are still here. They seem to be resident in this area. It is a stunning day to be able to sit at the dam. So what I would actually do if I could every single day would be to sit out here with a blanket and my binoculars and a bird book and some coffee and spend the day watching what comes down, because it is so nice and hot. But I think what I'm going to do, because this dam is still quite quiet, I'm going to carry on with my bumble, see what I can find along the eastern side of Djuma, and then we will have to see if we could find any signs of some wild dogs for Kurt. I think I might actually end up more excited than Kurt if we find wild dogs. I am a little bit dramatic when it comes to them. Beautiful day. So looking specifically for wild dogs as well is quite fun, because I'm not just looking for tracks, I'm not just listening for alarm calls, because actually, Wendy, she revs herself sometimes. So I'm not actually just looking for tracks, I'm not just listening for alarm calling, because wild dogs are quite different. They're so fast that animals sometimes don't have the chance to alarm call. So what you would actually just see is out the corner of your eye some flashes of beige as the impalas sprint past, and then some flashes of black, white and gold as the wild dogs follow up behind them. But more likely than not, the thing that you actually hear with wild dogs, oh, another giraffe, is actually the hooting sound when they get separated. So especially when they are hunting, you'll see that wild dogs will separate, they work together as a pack, and then they will find each other by making a deep hooting sound like an owl. This giraffe, I'm not going to spend too much time with it. It's kind of done the same thing as the other one, finding a shady spot and feeding. Also another male, although this one doesn't look as old. Definitely nice and dark, very stark markings, but doesn't have as many scars. So every time you're with any of the herbivores like this, it's a great chance to make sure that there isn't anything else around. The quiet moments often bring the best things, like Kurt says. Just absolutely beautiful. Callum, actually, yes, giraffes can get darker as they age. It is kind of the general rule of thumb that the older a giraffe is, the darker it will be. Another general rule of thumb is if it's darker, it's usually a male. However, this is not set in stone, and you actually cannot use that to 100% identify the age or sex of a giraffe. In fact, you would have to look at things like scarring, overall size, the ossicones, external genitalia. But yes, the general rule of thumb is the older a giraffe is, the darker its spots will be. That being said, I have seen a young female giraffe whose spots were almost black. So every now and then you can get a curveball thrown in somewhere. And it is very much like that in nature. You can never assume anything. You can make a good kind of calculated assessment of something based on what you know, based on what you see, and based on the individual. But in all likelihood, you actually can't just take it as is, as for some form of knowledge that you know. You actually do have to have a look. It's caught me a few times, especially in my earlier days of guiding. I will openly admit that. Making assumptions without properly looking at what you've got. We have got a game viewer that is coming through with guests. I don't know if they want to have a look at the giraffe or not, so... Some very excited guests coming past, it seems. Alright, so this giraffe is definitely still just having a good relaxed afternoon feeding. So I think I'm actually going to leave him to it. He is quite close to the dam, so maybe later on he'll end up coming back this way. For now though, I just want to keep checking the southern part of Djuma, just to check the boundaries, because this is the best bet for me for where any of the predators may have come in. So things like the wild dogs, lions, leopards, this is the kind of boundary that they would cross. We just seem to be having so many different animals pop up today. Some kudus deep in the brush, impalas all over. Just an absolutely stunning day. Very, very lucky. Thank you for bringing the luck with you, Kurt. So this dip that I'm going through is actually the same drainage line that I was driving on further up, further north, where we had the elephants in Mrs. Wigg, called the Mulawati. That's what the Mulawati leopard is named after, that drainage line. It's amazing to see some new fresh bursts of greenery. It feels like in the last 2 or 3 days it's changed so fast. It went from just a few bits here and there to really pretty much every tree is now starting to get new shoots. So in fact, the last time that the wild dogs were seen was crossing out here, Kurt, just in front of us, out that way. So I'm hoping they're going to do a little bit of a loop and maybe come back for you. Has been a few days, so in all likelihood, they might be on their way back. Another elephant. It's very, very, very hidden though, so I don't think we'll even get a view of its face where it is. But good to know that there's still more elephants around. Driving along the fire break at the moment, so it is the boundary. There are some other game viewers in the area. But I'm really, really just hoping, really hoping that there's something that's crossing in. I'm actually just about to turn up onto the eastern boundary and check there. So while I carry on to check the boundary, see if there's any fresh tracks of those wild dogs for Kurt, I'm going to send you over to Tristan, who has found himself at the dam cam.
Dam cam, and this should be super interesting because I have no control over it, so we'll see what we get and we'll try and narrate what we can. There's some baboons on it currently, but yeah, Rusty is, I don't know, decided to go bang today, so we're in dam cam duty for the foreseeable future. Marcel assures me though that they'll get it sorted, but we'll see how that goes. So at the moment, just watching some baboons on the dam cam. Little baby baboon. It's with its mom. It's actually been very interesting. I've been sitting at the dam cam now for the last couple of minutes, and it's been super interesting to watch because the baboons have walked right past where there's a Lapwing Nest. A lot of you that watch the dam cam regularly will know about the Lapwing Nest. That is some nice vegetation in the background there. A lot of people know the dam cam nest, and so these poor baboons have kind of come through. Oh, not poor baboons, actually poor lapwings. The baboons have come through, and we know that they'll very easily be able to break open eggs and eat them. And so the mothers the parents have been actually kind of dive bombing them and trying to push them away, and the baboons have actually trying to catch the lapwings. It's been pretty interesting to watch. So I'm sure we'll get some cool sightings of them just now, but you can see how that baby's clinging to mom. It's a very effective way of surviving. His mom is a taxi. You don't have to really do too much or maneuver out of danger as much as mom will be able to do it all. Like I say, if you have just joined, I don't have control of this camera, so it's going around all over the place. For now, we're busy working on me getting control of it so we can focus on things that we want to talk about. So please do excuse the out of focus and those kinds of things. But yeah, like I said, I'm sure these baboons are going to spend the rest of the afternoon here. It's getting kind of late in the afternoon. It's hot. So they're going to come here, spend time where there's water and food, and then they'll go up into the lodge where they're going to just roost for the night. At the end of the day, it's a perfect place to roost because you've got a fenced-off lodge with beautiful big trees, and very little is going to disturb you in a place like that. It's going to allow for some much-needed rest, especially in a place where we have a number of predators like a lion and leopard. It allows them to really have a pretty good time. Alright, well, we'll continue to try and work on getting control of the camera so that we can actually kind of show you the things that we want to talk about. In the meantime, though, I'm going to sit and see what else comes up as the camera gets zoomed around.
I really hope Tristan manages to find something cool on dam cam. Definitely an interesting place to be sitting, just like I wanted to sit at a water hole and see what comes and goes. So I'm actually in the fire break, and I just wanted to kind of have a look at some of the new growth because now that we're really full-blown into spring and there's a lot of shoots coming up, you can really see the difference there between all the different colors, which is quite amazing. There's a lot of fresh green growth, quite a few pods for the combretum, so it's a bush willow. And so you can imagine why a lot of animals like giraffes, kudus, elephants are going to be found in these fire breaks at the moment. There's a mixture of different bush willows here. The majority is actually the large fruited bush willow, which is the very dark green that you can see there. And that's particularly popular with elephants at this point. So with all of the fresh growth that is happening, it's definitely a great time to be out looking for animals. There are a lot of animals that are coming out, especially now that it's started to cool off a little bit. It's getting a lot more pleasant. So animals are starting to move. So the Murula trees as well have also now started with a little bit of growth. So it doesn't look very obvious from kind of a zoomed out perspective, but when you can zoom in, look at those tiny little things on the edges, and that's a mixture of fresh leaves that are starting to shoot up, and the small little reddish bits that look like little circles, those are going to turn into marula fruits in around December. So if you park underneath one of those now and there's a strong wind, you actually get a shower of those little red marula, tiny marula fruits that aren't mature yet. Just lovely to be able to see a bit of the growth as it's coming in the seasonal change.
Well, we're still trying to wrestle back control, but at the moment we're looking at the Djuma landscape. It's quite a bit of funness, as you don't know what you're going to get as you're sitting here. Camera's going all over the place and doesn't stay still for very long. It's like being on a roller coaster where you're not quite sure where you're going to go. But anyway, it's fun. Morgan's laughing at me. Morgan's in here too, everybody. Wouldn't leave Morgan alone on the vehicle. He's decided to come and join me on dam cam shift. Unfortunately, you won't hear him, but he is here in spirit, so we wouldn't break us up like that. We're going to have a few laughs at the dam cam while we sit here. Anyway, that is a baboon that is watching out over the dam. It's having a pensive moment, I would imagine. I mean, the ripples are beautiful in the background, and I can understand why our baboon is sitting there gazing out over those beautiful arty ripples that are coming through. I am not really sure what to say about that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how many animals come down this afternoon. You know, it's hot out there. When I got back, it was about 4:30. So it was still very warm when we got back. So I'm sure there's still going to be a number of animals that are going to come through. There were some elephants around. A baboon's bottom is a delightful thing, isn't it? Sure. It's not the prettiest. That was quite a graphic angle as well. But yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some ellies that will still come down. It's warm enough for them to make their way through. There was a big herd at Galagopan. I think they might have been at the dam cam already earlier. But yeah, they might return back, have a little swim, or at least just come and have a late afternoon drink. It's always a good time for a cat to come in the late afternoon, given how warm it's been. And there was tracks, the guys said to me, for a young male leopard. So young male leopard could be Shasha, it could be Tsemba, it could be Tavangumi even, although Tavangumi's tracks are getting big now. And they were going east in the little drainage line just on Galago shortcut, which means they would go towards Galago Pan and possibly even to the dam itself. So you never know what could pop out. Could also get lots of giraffe. There's quite a few of them around. And then obviously the baboons are going to be entertaining too. Look at this little baby. It's probably the one baby that I wouldn't say is cute. Not the most cutest thing. Oh, that's a wonderful shot of grass. Okay, well, while I admire the grass and a baboon in the background and some rippled water, let's send you across to Mike, who's made his way to a water hole, and I hope that the camera movement will not be as all over the place.
So we made our way back to Ndlovu Dam just in time, because there are a couple of elephant bulls. Looks like very big elephant bulls at the dam itself. One of them is mud wallowing, and the other one is just taking a short break on the dam wall. It's great to see such big elephant bulls. I mean, there's no others around, so... And I only think that they look big because their tusks are quite widespread. Not huge tusks, but then again, tusks are purely genetic. This has got nothing to do with age, really. But it's great to see these elephants starting to come more and more frequently back towards Ndlovu Dam. And try and get us a little bit closer. We just have to walk and, keep an eye on their behavior, just to make sure that they don't react in a negative way to us. I always bring my voice down just a notch, just because I need to be able to hear what's around me as well. I'm actually going to walk this way. You can see the elephants there, but we're very far away from the elephants. At this distance, they can probably see movement, but the wind is in our favor. It's blowing towards us. So they probably can't hear us, and they probably can't smell us. So as long as we're not approaching them directly, they will probably not be too alarmed by us at this distance. Once we get onto this dam wall, we're able to go a bit closer. Magic Dragon Wizard, the largest elephant herds that I've ever spent time with was probably in one of our camps in Botswana. That's called, the camp is in a place called Mashatu. That's the eco-training camp in Mashatu. And there we used to frequently see herds of a couple of hundred elephant moving along the riverbank. But here at Pride Lands, we've seen big herds, 60 to 80 elephants at a time, coming down to the dam to drink and to play and to wallow. And we were discussing it the other day. I can't remember if it was 30 elephants or 60 elephants, but it was definitely a huge amount of bull elephants, only males at one stage, that came down to the dam. And none of us had ever seen that many bull elephants in one place, all, interacting together like that. Oh, look, the one elephant's trying to go around. You see the same elephant that's mud wallowing now. Didn't like that very much. It was dust bathing. BK, let's try and see if we can get a bit closer there. Let's try and see if we can get onto the dam wall itself. See, from here we are blocked from view by elephants, so we can walk more normally. I'm just going to go up the bank here and see if we can get a decent view. You're going to be able to take that game path over there, BK. Now, with approaching elephants or any animals, shade is often as good as cover. Now, we can't see very well from the rocks.
Welcome back to my bumble. So I am actually headed along the eastern boundary at the moment, looking for any tracks of wild dogs that may have crossed in. I have seen some baboon tracks, which has been very cool. You can kind of see the thumbprint. It can be very confusing if they're not walking in a very clear area for tracks. But I'm actually also wanting to, now that it's getting a bit cooler, go and check just a little bit further north in case they have crossed back in. They were last seen in this area, so definitely worthwhile checking. A lot of really nice fresh growth, which means there's a few impalas around as well. kind of scattered and a little bit more in the thickets. But that is really good because it means that the wild dogs have some food to attract them here. So I'm definitely enjoying this little change in temperature. It's definitely quite a bit cooler than it was an hour ago. And I'm sure the animals are feeling exactly the same way. So that is actually what I'm relying on by driving around instead of just sitting in one spot. That at some point, something is going to be moving where we are moving. Being out here is a combination of skills and luck. And it's always going to be like that anytime you're in the bush. It's a game of luck, right place at the right time. And every now and then, your skills come in handy too. There's a lot of bird life hanging around the fire break as well. And that's also a pretty good indicator for me because birds are very sharp with their eyesights. So at some point, if they see a predator, you know you're going to hear some alarm calling. Especially for things like wild dogs, because there are so many of them usually moving in a pack. It's very hard to miss them if you're another animal. But I'm definitely going to keep going and checking very, very carefully just to see what pops up this afternoon.
Here we are. We are on an expedition. This is the expeditionary force. Behind me, we have seen Tlalamba. We are very excited.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
Either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, 2 to go.
Well, we've gained control of the dam cam, which means that we can focus on some cool stuff. As you can see, we've got two little babies that are having the best time at the moment. They are jumping around all over the place. There's one tiny newborn. You can see its fur is still kind of actually filling in. It's still dark and almost black in coloration and bald in places, and its ability to move around still a little bit compromised, whereas the one on the left hand side, which is the slightly bigger of the two, is you can see its fur is all kind of grown in. So the two of them are having lots of little wrestling games, and while it looks like it's probably going to be a bit rough and tumble for one of these baboons, you're going to find that it'll help eventually with both of them gaining strength, learning how to climb nicely, learning how to defend themselves later in life. If they're a male or a female, there's got to be ways that they've got to interact with other baboons. And so all of this is vitally important if they are to grow up and to become successful and to be able to stay nice and safe from predators by climbing and all these kinds of things. So the pulling of legs and rolling around and just generally being complete delinquents is not the worst thing at all. You can see the mothers are very unfazed by all of this. They're like, oh, children are at it again. And you can imagine how often they do this now. Is that a little boy? The little one. Looks like a little male. There's a little male. Okay, well, game time's over. Let's now go back to mom and go and see what mom's getting up to. Go have a little nurse. Once they feel like they've played enough, then sometimes they'll go and do a bit of nursing and just go and spend some time with mom. There comes the other one. Isn't this cool? I'm not, as most of you will know that know me, I'm not a baboon lover at all. I don't find them particularly interesting. Well, they are interesting. I just don't find them particularly nice animals. I've unfortunately got a predisposition to them because of the time that I've had to spend in a lodge and had to constantly fix and clean and kind of generally look after damage that baboons have done. But I will say that little baby monkeys are very entertaining when they're like this and they're playing. Oh, that one's going to go and catch up with mom. I'll try and... This lot is all over the place. Let's see. So I know that the camera movements, look how it's being helped up. You see, it's all to try and teach how to climb. So these moms will be like, okay, you want to learn to get up here? They'll try and bring them up and try and teach them where to position themselves and how to sit. This little one at the moment is, there we go. Pretty good actually, all things considered. It's not exactly wonderful, but not bad. I'm just going to jump on mom while we do it. Oopsie, there we go. Now you can see when mom wants to move. Oh no, come on camera, you've got to go faster than that. Anyway, the camera doesn't go as fast as I wanted to, so I'm going to come out a little bit, see if I can find where they went. Mom and youngster. Yeah, they are here. They seem to be the most entertaining part of the group. There's some Egyptian geese in the back, which is always pretty par for the course here at Kalahari Dam. There we go. It's quite cool actually viewing them like this because you don't get these kind of views with the car. Most of the time with the car they're pretty scared of the vehicle and they want to kind of constantly move away. But in this situation, they know that they don't have to worry about the dam cam. It's not something that's very mobile, and so they're as natural as you're going to see them. This is baboon life as it would be if no one was there. And so we get to see kind of all the intricacies of their behavior and their social constructs and how they go about their day. Let's go up a little bit and go a bit wider. You can see lots and lots of them all over the place at the moment. And lots of interaction. It's the last bit of play on a hot day before they start to go and roost and get themselves into the trees at the lodge. That little one's getting bullied by one of the bigger ones now. You're going to come up onto this log. It's a bit doddery, isn't it? Still kind of learning how this all works. A little itch. Shame, man. I mean, they're not pretty, are they? Most animals are cute, but I'm afraid it's not that cute. It's got rather large ears, and well, everything else is also not great from a looks point of view. Morgan, did you find that one funny? Morgan is cackling in the background here. Oh, that one just went head first into the other one. It's all kinds of chaos with these guys. This one's being bitten and now fallen over completely. Of course, there would be a stump in the way. Quite challenging, actually, to film these guys. Morgan, you do a pretty good job with this. I mean, also, you're not using...
Granted, I have to drag the screen.
Yes, exactly. Granted, you don't have to use a mouse to try and get this to move, so you probably hear the clicking half the time, which is the mouse that I have to click to move the camera around. Much easier when you can just whip a camera on a steady head. Exactly. You don't have to battle for control too. Elijah, so, I mean, this would be something that would be nice for one of the guys in the field, so either Mike at Pridelands or Tessa out there to show you, because it's very difficult for me over this to be able to show you what I'm talking about. But a monkey track and a baboon track is very easy to tell apart, quite simply because a vervet monkey will have a track where the back V shape, so V for vervet, both on the front and back foot, whereas in the baboons, the front foot, when they walk on the sort of tips of their fingers and on the sort of tips of the palm, if that makes sense, and they leave the finger track with the sort of top part of your palm, so where your fingers meet your palm, they leave that part there, and it makes almost like a little B shape. So B for baboon and V for monkey is how you can remember it. Obviously, in adults, there's a big size difference, but in little babies, you just use those shapes of the actual feet in order to do it. And so, like I say, bushwalk is probably the easiest one for that. But yeah, Tessa might be able to come across some tracks for both, especially if she's in this area, because often we'll find, look at that one with its arm up. How dramatic. Yes. I suppose it is a Friday afternoon, a little pamper session before heading out for the night. I think they're enjoying the fact that the sun is not absolutely destroying them right now. And I think they can feel as though they can sit and take it very, very easy and just enjoy a bit of warmth, but not crazy hot. But yeah, so I think from a track point of view, that's where I would go with it. I would say one of the field teams, if they can show you, but essentially it's a V versus a B when the track is there. And then also numbers-wise, baboons typically a lot more than the monkeys, especially walking on the ground, because baboons will do a lot of walking on the ground, whereas monkeys are a lot more arboreal, like run across next tree, and it's like one at a time rather than the whole troop walking down the road that you see with baboons. I've seen some big troops here before. Back in 2012, we used to have a troop that used to come through from Mala side, and it would come basically following the Mulawati drainage, and that troop was over 150 of them in the group. It was pretty crazy. They used to cause absolute havoc at the camps that were on their way. You can imagine that number of baboons, how much damage they could do when they got in somewhere. Luckily, this particular group... the mother's had enough. It's like, that's it, I'm biting your foot. Enough. I'm going to hold you by the foot so you can't be a clown and run all over the place. There's a little discipline. But you can see sometimes their teeth. I'll try and get in a little closer while they're biting each other like this. And a little smack, just to be like, hey, behave yourself. And off it goes. And these two are going to carry on grooming. I can't remember what I was going to say now before that one became an absolute hooligan. Oh, there's a little one. I didn't even see it there. See how it's clinging to its mom. There's one in the background with the sticks. is so naughty. It's running around all over the place. Look how it's playing with the sticks. I suppose it's just like children in a way. I mean, if you had to go a bunch of adults and sit at a dam and have a sundowner, the children would run riot just like this and play with the sticks and jump on each other and do all kinds of other things. All right, we'll see what else we can find on the dam cam. The baboons are highly entertaining, but let's see if there's anything else lurking. In the meantime, let's send you across to Tessa, who's made her way to a waterhole and is with the pod.
From one dam to another, I am sitting at Buffelshoek Dam. I actually saw some elephant tracks coming this way, so I was hoping there might be an elephant or two here, but it seems we have got the resident pod of hippos, and it seems like all 4 of them are finally back together. The last 3 times I've come here, there have only been 2, but I have now actually seen all 4. Ah, there you go, they're just playing a game of musical breaths. They're actually leaning on each other's backs, which is quite sweet. And at the moment, it's very, very tranquil here. Quite a few little birds calling and things like that. Beautiful breeze blowing. But just so peaceful. You can see the hippos are very relaxed. They're actually much more relaxed than they have been for quite a few days. And that's because for the first time there's not these massive ripples in the water that are blowing up against them constantly. The wind is very, very calm. It's just a breeze. So I think the hippos are quite happy. There is actually also a giraffe that is feeding on the bank. And it's kind of, at the moment, just looks a little bit like a head sticking out. I'll be very impressed if you can spot it before we zoom in. There he is. It's definitely a giraffe type of day today. So I don't know what it is about the weather today, or maybe Kurt is just exceptionally good luck, but giraffes have been fairly scarce for the last week, and all of a sudden they might be more camera friendly today than the impalas are. So this pod of hippos is 3 females and 1 male. The male is quite a lot bigger than the females, and he's currently underwater. But it looks as though, well, I'd love to know if any of these females are pregnant. Be very excited to see a little baby hippo pop up sometime soon. It's very, very hard to tell with hippos when they are pregnant, because most of the time this is the view that we get, and it's definitely impossible to tell from their faces whether or not they are pregnant. That being said, if we are lucky enough to see one out of the water, it's quite difficult there as well. Because hippos are naturally quite, I call it frumpy, quite rounded, so it's quite difficult to tell. But I'm going to spend
The open quite low down. This one is sitting at a fallen over tree that's on the dam wall. And that makes me sad when I see this tree, because this was the best leopard tree that we had at one point. It used to kind of come out of the dam wall and at a slight angle, and it was perfect. You used to get leopards sitting on there every now and then. Quarantine, Kunyuma, Nduna, Mishu, they've all been seen around this tree, Murula herself. So it was a really cool tree for that. And unfortunately in the flooding and rain, it ended up falling over. Now no longer would be really suitable for leopards. It wouldn't be a safe point for them, so they don't use it. Instead, you can see by that branch, there's lots and lots and lots of dung is not the right word, droppings, there we go, for birds. So it's used by multiple different birds. You see the heron sitting on it quite regularly, and now the fish eagle as well. And this guy will come and perch like this. I don't think it's in full hunting mode at the moment. It certainly doesn't look like it wants to swoop and kill something. It's just kind of watching and perching for now. It should be now the time that they start nesting again, and I'm interested to know where these guys nest, because these are not a pair that I haven't found the nest anywhere on Buffelshoek or Djuma. So I wonder if it's not one of the fledglings from the nesting pair that's at Chitwa Dam. They nest quite regularly, and we see their kind of offspring flying around Chitwa Dam, but they have to distribute somewhere. They can't kind of stay within their parents' natal territory, so they've got to go. This particular bird is an adult, though. You can see by its plumage it's completely in adult phase. So it's got the rich brown sort of belly, the dark brown black wing, and that very bright white head with the yellow cere. Beautiful, beautiful bird, and then combined with its call is one of the icons of Africa. If any of you have been out here and spent any time near water in the African wilderness, you'll know full well that this bird is one of the most magical calls, and it will transport you every single time to you visit. You'll always be for the experience. Can't zoom in much more than that, unfortunately, because we lose a lot of quality if we go beyond a certain point. So we don't want to make it all fuzzy and blurry, because that won't be ideal at all. But really nice to see them around. I mean, a lot of you will kind of think it looks very similar to a bald eagle, but not quite the same size. Our fish eagles are slightly smaller. And don't be fooled by the name. The name doesn't necessarily imply that they only eat fish. These guys are actually birds that will eat various different things, from Egyptian geese goslings to monitor lizards. What else have I seen them on? I've actually seen them on a dwarf mongoose once, carrying one of those. Obviously fishes forms most of their diet. We'll see whether or not this guy actually does do a little bit of hunting for us this afternoon. But yeah, fish is typically what they target mostly, particularly catfish. I find that they really enjoy catfish, particularly in this area. It's probably because it's the most numerous species of fish in these artificial water holes. So yeah. All right, well, we'll carry on looking around and see what else is lurking. Like I said, hopefully some ellies, or you never know what can come in now at this time of the day. But we'll have a little look in the meantime and send you across to Mike at the dam.
So as you can see, we've got a whole herd of buffalo that has arrived at the dam. We came and sat down here. I know we dropped our signal. We tried to get closer to those elephants. So we parked ourselves here where we hoped signal would pick up. And then a herd of buffalo arrived, and have effectively trapped us at the water's edge. Well, they haven't really, but if we get up and move, they might run away, so we're not going to. We're going to sit right here. It's a whole herd. There's bulls on the left, there's cows and youngsters in the middle, and then on the right is a few more bulls. And they are loving the water on this hot afternoon. Some of them are mud wallowing, rolling around in that mud, really getting their body coated. Usually the oldest males doing that. They're losing their fur. And the reason for them spreading out like that with all the big bulls on the outside like that is because there have been lion tracks in the area, and I'm almost certain that they have been harassed by lions over the last few days at some point or other. So they're just making big noises. So they're just trying to be extra cautious. Well, someone's not happy. Someone's having a big argument in the middle there. That mud is very slippery and very soft. So let's hope that no buffalo calves get stuck in there, like what we had seen at Leopard Dam, with the one buffalo calf that seemed to have gotten chased in by hyenas, and then got so horribly bogged down that it could not get out and had to eventually be left there alone. The hyenas got it. Oh, more buffaloes coming over. Look. Is there a second herd, or the second half of the herd is arriving? Oh, that's amazing. I thought the herd looked kind of small. How cool is that? Just when we were live. Oh, wow, look at that. Reminds me of the Lion King, one of the crossings on the Mara River. Oh, wow, that is absolutely beautiful. I wonder why this herd got split up like that. I heard that there were some elephants with them. So I wonder if the elephants maybe were chasing them about and split the herd up. Look how they walk into the water to avoid that muddy, salty water that's been churned up by the others already. As the dust slowly drifts across the dam, what spectacular scenes these are. So the whole herd here now, we count them to be about, 80 buffaloes, or there's a few more coming over the dam wall much closer to us. I'm choosing a bad spot there. This one's going to have a bit of it. Oh, well recovered. As an old bull, that one. But he recovered well. Let's see if this other buffalo is able to get down as easily. This looks like a female coming down now, or is it? No, it's just a young male. Yep, it's done well. It's done well. Well done. Can have yourself a drink. You've earned it. It's tough times now for buffalo. They are starting to lose condition slightly. There's not a lot of food out there, especially for animals with this size and bulk. They'll need to eat a lot of food, and they're just not quite getting that. And I remember in about 2015, in the middle of with that very long drought that we're having, they were, actually it was maybe 2016 anyway, the buffaloes were dropping like flies. The lions were literally able to pick them off so easily because there had been a drought. They hadn't gotten enough food and they were just so weak. The buffaloes couldn't even run from danger. That's not the case this year. They are still very strong, but they are definitely getting hungry. Some of the buffaloes are looking up towards the dam wall. I wonder if there's more. Yes, there are. Some more buffaloes coming over now. I saw a few of them looking over towards the dam, and I wondered if there wasn't something approaching them. Very spread out herd, isn't it? I haven't heard any comms from the FC for a while, so I'm just hoping that they still do have our picture. Our signal's not great down here. I know that we struggle a bit. I hope that you're all seeing what we're seeing, because this is awesome. BK, I see him looking over his shoulder every now and again. We did have those 2 elephant bulls come past us, so we are just making sure that there's nothing approaching us closely from behind, because it's exactly the kind of day, the kind of time and day that a lot of stuff will come down to the waterhole in the evening. I've no doubt that the students will end up seeing a leopard tonight. I feel it in my bones. Love how the golden glow plays across the side of their bodies like that. It accentuates the curves of their horns, the glint on those like warriors with their swords bared, ready to defend themselves. Especially there's a pack of them just to the right-hand side of that group, the ones that have just arrived who were so desperate for the water they didn't even see us sitting here. And now as I look at them, they're all watching us. They've realized that something is watching them. Very defensive animals. They will not hesitate to chase off any predators. We've seen it many times at this very dam, in fact, where lions or leopards come to drink or happen to be at the water when the buffaloes arrive, and they literally chase them off. Buffaloes will not hesitate. Right, we're just going to sit quietly now and watch these buffaloes. We're not gonna, just gonna enjoy this. Minutes of silence. Right, everyone, the sun is setting, and this will be our last segment from here at Pridelands. But remember, the game drive continues, so please don't go anywhere. It's been an absolutely fabulous afternoon. Thanks for joining us here, and we'll see you tomorrow.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco-training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
I think sometimes you need just to listen. So it's a kind of taking out all that other spirit and bring back wilderness and healthy. Bushwalk and trek and sign. I'm sure I'm good at that. I spend most of my time on the ground since I was a young boy, so I think I'm good with that. Actually, I'm not much nervous of any category. Just take it as it is. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on what the judges are looking at. So chances are 50-50 on my side. I'm not... Obviously, when you go for a competition, you say you win.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
Well, the gremlins continue, and I don't know why we've lost Wendy now too. It's a delightful afternoon this afternoon. Anyway, we're with a lilac-breasted roller now. We'll try and get it kind of focused. Sorry, it will focus generally on the background, so I'll just try and bring it back into focus. Oh, it's not great, is it? It's not bad though, I suppose. But yeah, lilac-breasted roller, beautiful lilac-breasted roller. No, don't do that. Oh, this damn cam can be tricky sometimes with the focus. Try and just bring it back a little bit. There we go. But essentially, you get some that are not very colourful and others that are. This particular one is brightly coloured. It's got beautiful bright turquoise on it and blues, and even the lilac on its throat is fairly vivid. Sometimes they look as though they've been washed and kind of the paint is leaked out almost from them. So it's not always the most beautiful as bird. This one is good though. I like this particular one. He's showing off very, very well. They're obviously common birds in southern Africa. We see them all over the place, in fact all the way up into East Africa as well. And there are different species of roller, but the lilac-breasted roller is the one that most people know just because of how common it is, and it's seen in a lot of the wilderness areas of Africa. So it's gained some semblance of notoriety because of that. It's also, a bird that is colourful, so everyone wants to photograph it when they come out here. It's weird how people are so attached to colour. Morgan, you know all about that with your camo pants. Morgan's got his bright blue camo pants, which is all colourful. I mean, you could be a male bird with those pants. You know that. I guess so. Morgan says he guesses so. Especially with the new blanket. Especially with the blanket, yes. I got a message from some random game reserve in the middle of Hoedspruit that had found a blanket and it matches Morgan's pants. I was like, perfect. It must be Morgan's. He must have left here and gone and visited there at some stage. All right, our roller's not doing very much. It's probably sitting there also much like the fish eagle waiting for a snack. I mean, you can see the fish eagle in the background there. Give you a little bit of a size comparison between the roller in front. Fish fish eagle in the back. They're quite a big difference between the two, and both are essentially doing the exact same thing, is they're using perches as hawking spots where they're able to come down and grab whatever morsel there is, whether that be an insect for a roller or a fish for the fish eagle. I wonder if maybe this fish eagle is the reason why we're not seeing the monitor lizards anymore. It used to be all over this branch that the fish eagle's on, that fallen over tree. So if I come to the right a little bit, you see where the tree like comes out of the bank there. The monitors used to line up on that dead branch, but I haven't seen them since I've been back at all. So I wonder if it's the fish eagle that's responsible, or that this bank can now reach this little stump from land, and maybe, you know, some of the land-based predators like civets and stuff like that. So I suppose, but the monitors aren't really that active at night. So shouldn't really be civets and things that would bother them, but who knows? Birds would be my best guess. Alright, still nothing coming to drink. I was hoping we were going to get something there. We still got Dewey and a couple of lapwings moving around. But talking about birds of prey, it sounds like we've got an upcoming show coming to WildEarth, so take a look.
So I have actually stopped on my Bumble just to appreciate these colors of the sunset tonight. It's probably one of the most beautiful sunsets I've seen in a very, very long time. You can hear some grey-headed bush shrikes calling in the background. And just so wonderful to take in a little bit of the scenery while we listen for anything around us. You can actually see the colors changing as we watch. So I feel like this is one of the things that is absolutely essential when you're out here. You have to take a little bit of time every morning and every evening just to appreciate where you are. Take in the sunrise or the sunset. And kind of just have that little bit of time to, I guess, just let it, sink in. Definitely see why predators are more active from now on, because how can you not wake up and love a sunset like that? Dusty enough today that I can't see the Drakensberg Mountains at all. It's been a very, very hot day. So a lot of dust is kicked up and the horizon isn't so clear, but that is also what's making the colors so beautiful tonight. There's actually a little family of dwarf mongooses sitting in the road looking at us. They've just come out. Maybe they're appreciating the sunset as well. Have a look at that little family sitting there. Kurt, Junior would like to know what your favorite animal is.
In the Kruger. Leopard.
A leopard. Oh, that's a good answer. I think that's my favorite too. But wild dogs is a very close second.
Yes.
Yeah. Really good question, Junior. Thank you. I think there's quite a few little pups in this little colony, and so they've kind of just been slowly running over the road. It almost looks like the ones in the road are watching us to make sure we're not a threat, and then the others are just crossing and crossing and crossing. This is definitely one of my favorite predators out there. So you can imagine these little dwarf mongooses are going to want to start moving back towards the safety of the termite mound and the colony soon. That one did a skid to a stop. And that's because now, as the sun is setting so beautifully, owls are starting to come out. Other predators are starting to come out too. And so it's really, really important for them to start making sure that they get to the safety of cover, but also that they don't get too cold during the night, especially if there are still some pups with them. But let's just have a look at the sunset for a little bit and just listen to some of the birds calling in the background. I always say the sun sets in 30 seconds. From now, it just goes down so quickly. Alright, so I'm definitely just gonna watch the sunset a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna carry on with my search and see what else I can find on the Bumble.
Well, we're just scanning around trying to see if there's anything coming down. The baboons have gone into camp, unfortunately, so we can't see them anymore. So we're just kind of having a little look around just to see what's potentially coming down. I thought we might get a giraffe or two. Been lots of them around the last few days. I've seen, even this afternoon, I think I saw 4 or 5 of them in my very brief, very short, very unproductive game drive. So yeah, I would have thought maybe one would have come down to the dam. And ellies too. There was lots of ellies around earlier. I suppose it's getting cooler now, and so they start moving away and into the various thickets. We're just checking now up the slope to see if there's anything here. It doesn't look like very much is moving about. It's that awkward time now before dark where a lot of the antelope have tried to find clearings, and you know, it's not quite time for the nocturnals yet, so you're not going to get the scrub hares and the white-tailed mongoose and civet and various other things coming out. So yeah, we're just checking to see what else we can pull up. Our fish eagle's still lurking, but that's about it. And Dewey hasn't come out yet. Dewey's waiting for darkness before Dewey comes out. Is our roller still there? No, the roller's gone now. Oh no, the roller is still there. Might as well just enjoy the two of them. Not very much else happening out in the dam camp, so I'll just enjoy the two birds and we'll kind of take it easy with them. It's been a beautiful evening, so it would be good if something else was to pop out. Alright, well, patience is a virtue, so we shall be patient and wait and see what comes our way.
So I am just about to drop into another beautiful drainage line. The sun has officially set. And so now the predators come out to play. Or so I'm hoping anyway. We seem to be having incredible luck today. A little bit of Kurt's magic that he brought with. And it seems as though everything has just been incredible so far. So what I'm wanting to do, I'm actually in the central parts at the moment. I'm wanting to just kind of move a little bit more towards the west. So I've done a little bit of the east. I want to go and check a little bit of the west and then come back this way a little bit later on, just so that I know that I've covered a few of my bases for predators today. I haven't seen any fresh tracks today of lions or leopards, so it seems as though they have been moving quite inconsistently for the last few days with the bad weather, and today being the first hot day is probably the first day that they've really just kind of stayed where they are for quite a long amount of time, as opposed to moving every night. I think tonight's going to be another one of those nights where we actually don't have to wear a jacket. I'm very excited for that. The second night in a row. We've actually just come past Vuyatela Dam at the moment. I don't know, I'm pretty sure Tristan has shown that on the dam cam, but let's have a look. There's an African fish eagle on the branch. So I'm not going to go too close because it might actually move off. Let's try and have a little bit of a view from here. You can see it perched on the branch fishing. Definitely looking out for some food. Yeah, I think this is actually the same fish eagle that Tristan has had on the dam cam. So the dam cam is just opposite me at the moment. So lovely to see that it is still here fishing. It is the perfect time for a predator to be out looking for prey, and that includes all the raptors too. Just before sunset, animals are starting to move, especially the smaller ones. And so you might actually find quite a few eagles and things getting ready to go to bed, but still checking, because things like those dwarf mongooses crossing the roads, it's a great opportunity for food. if this is your first time in the Sabi Sands.
Sabi Sands, yes.
Yes, it is. It's amazing. It's a beautiful area. Thank you, Annika. Thank you for your question. Oh, feel that temperature drop. Wow. Little bit of a bumpy section coming up. Let's give it a go with Wendy. Whew. Wendy can do anything. And we are back on solid ground. Right, so we're definitely still going to be kind of looking out for predators as we go. I'm now officially past the central part and heading west. Alright, so while I carry on and go and check Impala Plains area, let's go over to Tristan and see how it's going with the dam cam.
Exhilarating on the dam cam. As you can see, we have, well, a whole flock of feathered friends moving through. We have guinea fowl, we have 2 Egyptian geese. It's well, all happening tonight. Can't stem my excitement for these guys. Why are you cackling in the back there, Morgan? Oh, you sneezed. Yes, of course you did. Right, but anyway, we do have guinea fowl. They're actually pretty cool creatures. Guinea fowl, I actually quite like these guys. They pretty busy birds during the day, move around a lot. Incredibly, these guys can cover on average about 12 kilometers a day on their feet, which when you think about it, for a bird of that size and that small little gait, it's a serious effort. I mean, that would be the equivalent of people probably doing 30 kilometers a day. Every single day, pecking at the ground. I mean, it's quite an incredible feat. So they're amazing in that regard, and they are so unique looking. They almost look like they come from a bygone era, with that helmet on top of their head and that blue face, and then those kind of feathers with the little white dots. Certainly have a very intriguing look about them. And we're about to go into a time where guinea fowl go from being friend to foe. Not that they're actually foe, it's just being very dramatic here. These guys generally for us are pretty reliable from a predator point of view. When you hear guinea fowl going alarm calling, you know something's going on. And if you got to just see what the guinea fowl do. If the guinea fowl are running and they're going into cover, aerial predator. So a few nights ago we had guinea fowl going crazy and they didn't fly up, and immediately, you know, look in the trees, you're going to see something, and sure enough there was a African hawk eagle. But otherwise, where they will obviously alarm call for land-based predators too, but then they fly up into the trees. But now we're about to go into their breeding season, where their call for breeding is pretty much the same as their alarm call. So they start cackling and going all crazy, and you kind of get all excited, and it just turns out that they, well, doing their own thing and not too worried. And then you throw Whitey into the mix, and then you're very confused by all of this, because he can make them go up into trees and then not be there, and a ghost. And then you can't really tell whether they're mating or, well, shouting at a leopard. But you can imagine how much effort this must be, just to go and peck at the ground every single day and headbutt it until such time as you have eaten your fill. And you'll find, and just like the baboons, they're going to go and roost somewhere close by too. I see them often going into the lodge and then roosting in the trees there. Why is everyone running away? Let's come out. They all looked up a little bit. Let's see. No, everybody's okay. Doesn't seem like much lurking. Maybe one of the Wahlberg's eagles flew past somewhere, because they're quite vulnerable like this when they're out in the open. You can see there's very little cover. Even if an eagle were to come now, they don't have a lot of place to go. So you'd find, in terms of what would hunt these guys from the air, Wahlberg's eagles not so much. It's a little bit big for them, but African hawk eagles, martial eagles, a lot of the time hunt guinea fowl, and this is the kind of place that they like to do it, is they come in and they spook them, and these guys can't run in undercover anywhere, so they're like sitting ducks. But these guys, I think, are banking on the fact that most of those eagles should be roosting by now, and that's why they're continuing to eat so out in the open at the moment. All right, let's come back though and see what else there is in this area. Nothing there to speak of. Dam's getting lower and lower by the day now. Nothing there. Not even an impala this evening. I would have expected some impalas to have come down by now. Wait, what's that? I see something white. Is that the fish eagle having a drink? Looks like it might be. Oopsie. It is indeed. Our little fish eagle is having a slight drinking session. We'll put him there. It's not very good framing because it's slap bang in the middle, but you know, is what it is. I can't really go in much tighter than that, otherwise we're going to lose a lot of quality on the image. We don't want that. There you go. You see how they drink? So they dip forward and they push that beak in, and they'll just slurp up a nice mouthful of water. Quite common to see these guys drinking. I see them a lot on the edges of waterholes like this. If you go to the Chobe River or to the Zambezi, you can see it all the time, literally on sandbanks all over the place, or fish eagles drinking. It's pretty cool to see. But I think this guy's being seen on the dam cam a lot lately. Like I said, I've been hearing it a lot more than normal, fish eagle calling in this area. And I say guy, it could be a girl. It's really tricky to sex fish eagles unless they're sitting together. The female is much larger than the male, so when they're together you can see it quite clearly, but when they're apart it's near impossible. You've got no reference of scale, and it's really hard to tell. But I wonder if another one will join it here and we'll end up getting a fish eagle pair. That would be really cool if we did. No fish eagle would have stayed, unfortunately, when the drought was here, because obviously this all dried up. But when it's got water, and it has for a few seasons now, maybe there will be a pair that will end up moving in and staying. Right, well, we'll stay with our little fish eagle and see what it gets up to. See if potentially it flies up and goes and lands somewhere where we can see it.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
And I turned to Shaw and I saw that she had this panicked look on her face. Either she was afraid that something had happened, or she was afraid that she was going to miss out on something. But instead of her missing out on those lions, we drove up next to them and I switched off the car so that she could hear what was going on. Now, these lions had killed a kudu, and she could hear these two cubs, both 8 months old at the time, busy pushing and shoving each other out the way to get to the best parts of the meat. And the mom was lying just to the side in the shade. Now, I'd known that before losing her sight, Sean probably knew what a lion looked like. But I really wanted her to know what this lion looked like. So for the first time in my guiding career, I started to describe to someone what a lion looked like. And I found that, I started to notice things in that lion that I'd never seen before.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we'd normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
I can definitely feel that the temperature has now started to drop quite substantially. And that definitely could be, especially now that we've got no wind, a very, very strong reason for the fact that it is actually just so quiet right now. And it's beautiful. I feel like I'm driving around. There's just stunning colors everywhere, and we're just in that in-between phase. There is an elephant that is about to cross the road with a branch in its mouth. It's quite a young elephant, young female. I don't know where she's planning on going. She's actually about 5-6 meters from us at the moment. Oh, she's rumbling. I love that sound. She decided to hide a little bit. Funny enough, I've just noticed in the distance a tree shaking, and that can only mean that there are more elephants up ahead. So I'm actually going to give it a go. I can definitely smell elephants. Kurt, Oliver has a question. He wants to know how your experience has been so far.
Short or long answer? I take the short answer, as expected.
As expected. It's a very cheeky answer, I like that. Well, Kurt said to me earlier, one of the things he wanted to find out was how the presenters are kind of different and how the experience is different between being here in person and seeing it on TV. And he said, apparently I'm the same, which is good to know. But he said it is really, really cool to be able to feel the difference of being on the car in person and seeing how everything works behind the scenes. So we found the rest of the elephant, it seems. Quite a few teenagers. There are some adults, but they're quite a bit further back. You can hear how dry the grass is. You can hear them moving, which doesn't often happen with elephants. Sorry, Wendy's moving a little. Yes, I can definitely see there are more elephants, but they're all way back in the distance. This poor thorn tree is being harassed by 2 young elephants. Part of a game for them, it seems. Hello, elephant. Hello, elephant. Are you learning your size by any chance? I wonder what this one's chewing. That sounds so crunchy. It's got a little log that it picked up somewhere, a little branch. This is very typical behavior for kind of young teenagers. They're kind of just starting to go through their hormonal spurts. They're starting to explore, starting to kind of figure out their own attitude a little bit as well, and kind of test the boundaries of how big they are and what they can do. So this is all part of growing up for any animal. It's not just elephants that will do this, it's young lions and leopards as well, young wild dogs. Very, very interesting. But it's actually always wonderful to be able to watch, especially elephants at this age, because no other elephant will act like a teenage elephant will. Just is such different behavior. That scratching sound that you could hear was actually its forehead brushing against the thorns there. You can hear there are quite a few elephants around us. Some of them quite far off in the distance, just a silhouette. And then some of them like this youngster, a young male learning his strength. Using its foot very cleverly to break that tree off at the base, at the roots, and then spat the tree out. He just wanted to break off one little branch. You can see that he's actually, when he's using his trunk, he is standing on the branches that he's trying to break. They did it again. Very, very clever. So elephants actually have very sharp toenails and they use it to chop plants at the base. Definitely still a little bit clumsy at this age. He's actually breaking every small little tree. So he's finding every little dry tree in amongst all the long grass and pulling it out. Absolutely incredible to have them so close. Giving him poor challenge. And there he goes to join his friend. Beautiful. It's always really, really special to be able to spend time with elephants, in particular a herd, as they're moving, as they're kind of growing and changing. The rest of the herd is pretty spread out up ahead, so I'm actually going to keep going. I think we'll probably bump into quite a few more while we are going. It's just so lovely to be able to kind of watch that so up close. Louise, I wouldn't think that the dry grass would cut through their trunks. I would actually say there's a higher risk of wet grass doing that. So I know, there are lots of elephants here. I know that when I have kind of held onto grass myself and tried to pull it, it's actually the wet grass, because it doesn't snap as easily. It's got a lot more bend in it, and so that acts as almost like a bit of a slicing element. So I've cut right through my fingers on a good few occasions trying to pull grass while moving in a car or whatever. The dry grass actually snaps quite quickly, so if anything I would think it might just splinter a little bit and maybe poke them once or twice, but I wouldn't think that it would actually cut their trunks. Very wet green grass is a lot more bendy and a lot more difficult to break. so I would think that would be the culprit. Beautiful big elephant bull here. And he is doing exactly what the young teenage elephant was doing, funny enough. He is using his feet and pulling up all the small trees in between the grass. So you'll probably find he's just following on behind the herd. And that's very normal behavior for a big male elephant. He'll be following behind, testing all of the females to see if they're in estrus, if there's any opportunity for him to come in and mate. He is still quite young though. You can see his tusks are quite small. And his body is not enormous. I would think he's actually only just coming into the phase where he might be getting ready to mate, maybe 20 to 25 years old. That dropping that you can hear, that is actually him defecating. You can be very grateful that you can't smell it right now. We definitely can. Very fresh. Alright, so he's moving off into quite a thick area. I'm not going to follow him in there since he is following the herd. I think he's more than happy to keep going on his own. And I'm going to continue with my bubble. Absolutely lovely to see such a big male, and then really amazing to be able to relate that, you know, exactly the behavior that he was doing when I pulled up was exactly what that young male was practicing. Great to see them kind of becoming miniature versions of the adults. Alright, so I'm going to go down and check Impala Plains. I'm now towards the western side of Djuma and just see if there might be anything around.
We're still just watching the hippo who's bobbing about. It's getting dark now, so difficult to focus the camera, which is why I'm a lot wider. He's been yawning and rolling and generally doing hippo-y things, which is what they do at this time of the night. They start getting ready to get out, and so that's why they're quite busy. This lilac-breasted roller in the front also looks like it's hunting a little bit. It's just like I say, it's getting so dark now, even for the camera, hard to focus on anything very clearly. You can see it's struggling a little bit, but there's the roller in the darkness, hunting along the edges of those little thickets. And especially at this time of night, there'll be a few things. Coming off of the water and around there, so should be able to find some food, but it's almost time for it to roost and to settle. No, come on, camera, focus. Sorry, everybody. It really struggles at this time of the day to focus because of the darkness that it's starting to pick up. So not easy by any stretch of the imagination for it to pick up where it needs to be. But nothing else has come in. I'll just come around and just check if there's anything lurking where there's a bit more light, where we can actually utilize the camera better. But no, it doesn't seem like it. I was hoping for maybe a little scrub hair or some thick knees or anything like that would be nice. But alas, there is nothing. So we shall continue to look around and continue to check and see, and hopefully something will make an appearance that we can end up looking at and enjoying from the comfort of the damn cam.
So I am now driving very, very slowly down Impala Road. I'm hoping that the name has drawn some predators in. See how it goes. So it's actually still quite warm out. I'd say it's at least 23, 24 degrees Celsius, if not hotter. So it's the warmest night that we've had in about 8 days. So it will be very interesting to see if anything pops out tonight. I think the predators in particular, especially things like wild dogs, will actually move later in the day than normal. Alright, so I'm going to keep going, see what I can find, and I'm going to send you back over to Tristan.
Well, I haven't really found anything else. I've kind of been looking about, but not much has really come through. Normally this little open clearing is pretty productive at this time because of how open it is. A lot of the animals move into this section and start to kind of settle down and rest in these open clearings. This would be a fine time for old Darkmane to make his appearance here and lie down at the camp. He likes to be in this area, but no sign of him either. I think he was seen this morning, actually. I forgot completely that he was seen this morning. He was up on the northwestern side of Djuma, sorry, and then crossed into Buffelshoek, and then from there went straight northwards, which I find surprising because yesterday, S8, there's the lodge in the background, S8 was mating with 3 of the Telematis. Well, I was only mating with 1, but he was accompanied by 3 Telemati lionesses. So I was expecting and hoping, sorry, I don't know why it's getting so dark, but I was expecting and hoping that, he wouldn't go up there because he's going to get himself into trouble at some point if he keeps up with this nonsense. You can see a little grey heron that's come in at the moment. The quality of this is just getting crazy. I'm going to have to turn on the infrared just now so that we can actually see what's going on. But essentially got a grey heron that's fishing. Our hippo is still bobbing and still weaving and kind of waiting to get out. They generally wait until it's completely dark. And so that's when you'll start to pick them up and kind of coming out and moving about and doing their thing. Probably change into infrared now. There we go. Otherwise it would have been a little bit tricky to see what's going on. It's starting to get very, very dark. I was hoping we could probably carry on a little longer without it, but it really was getting crazy. So we'll be able to watch our heron fish. A little grey heron that is there. Looks eerie in the black, doesn't it? Kind of going about its business. You'll find that they kind of walk around in these shallows, and now's a good time for them. The low light, the fish often move up into the shallows as the catfish start getting very active. It's a good time to be lurking for a grey heron. It'd be cool if we get one catching something. I'd be pretty happy if we managed to pick up a little kill on the dam camp. Be sad for the fish, but fun to watch herons hunt. They've got an incredible strike when they actually go after something. Alrighty, well, we'll keep scouting around. Maybe something pops out of the woodwork in the evening darkness. In the meantime, though, you guys can take a look at what's coming up this weekend as we do a fireside chat, and you can see what exactly we're going to be talking about.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
All right, so I am still on my little bumble. It seems like with it being warmer, the animals are nowhere to be seen. Other than elephants, which we've seen around. I don't know if there's a wildebeest or if there's a buffalo. I just want to check. They might be bushes. Are they bushes? I think they're bushes. So it just goes to show you, when you really want to see something, you will see it. You start making it up in your mind. I do that all the time with leopard logs too. It's one of my strongest talents. It's listed on my CV. Yeah, but with it being a little bit warmer, it seems that the animals are taking a go slow to get started tonight, and that is perfectly normal. They're probably still feeling a little hot from the day, and so they're taking a little bit of a breather before they come out tonight. One of the stranger things that I have noticed, when I was last in the bush, I did not wear glasses. I am so grateful for glasses in the spring because there are so many insects. And they always used to fly into my eyes, and now they just kind of bounce off. Which isn't great for the insect, but it definitely helps my driving abilities. Can never underestimate the power of something simple when you're out in the bush. So I have noticed quite a few hyena tracks on the road while I have been going. You can understand, you know, without there being any active den sites, it's going to be quite difficult for us to find hyenas because at the moment the clans are quite spread out. And so it can become very, very difficult to predict their movements or actually find them. So the best chance that you have is early morning, late evening, or throughout the night you find fresh tracks. But it's a great sign if you do find them or see the tracks, because can often mean that they've been following other predators or looking for food. That's exactly what they'll do. Alright, so I'm actually going to just check one more drainage line. The same one where I saw Moluwati the other day, and just see, maybe you never know what's there. And I'll catch up with you again just now.
Free diving is the purest way to experience the great African sea forest. Silently gliding through the long kelp fronds allows you to reconnect with nature and explore this enchanted world. Sea Forest is a brand new daily experience coming soon on the WildEarth channel. You will explore an underwater forest live from Cape Town, while a team of naturalists explain what we are seeing.
Like trees in a forest, these kelp provide food and shelter for many, many species.
Magical encounters with shy marine life, crustaceans, sharks, seals, and so much more will all bring a window of calm into an otherwise chaotic world.
Here at the Advanced Rifle Handling Challenge, which is actually lots of challenges in one to gauge the contestants' skills at different distances and different speeds. This is probably the challenge that the contestants are the most nervous about. So let's get them locked and loaded. Are now doing the Harrier Hawk, where they have to run back and forth to a target, turn, take aim, and shoot. And this simulates a chase in a real environment and gets the heart pumping and the blood pressure up. James gave us a demonstration, and the skill involved in this exercise is remarkable.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one. Okay.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Right, so I'm just arriving at the drainage line where I met Mulwati. And this is really the last little place that I wanted to check tonight. And just see if there might be anything. Doesn't look like there is anything here, but that's okay. That's okay. Alright, so I'm actually heading up to quarantine. I know that the animals are going to be sleeping there for tonight, so it's going to be a great place to go just to kind of end off the evening. Kurt, I'd love to know, can you sum up your experience from today in one word?
One word.
One word.
It's a bit difficult to describe the experience today in one word. There are a lot of superlatives that I can use, but I normally don't use superlatives to describe 4-hour drive. But it was very nice.
I'm so glad to hear it, Kurt. It's been so lovely to have you with us today. And I think you definitely brought the good luck charm with you. Your magic hands, when you held them out, things just happened. Absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, I did not manage to find any wild dogs for Kurt, but that is absolutely okay. He's not gone just yet, so we've still got a little bit of time. But it's been a really phenomenal day. We've seen so many giraffes, so many elephants, kudos and birds. We've just had such a relaxed day, and I think the highlight today was definitely Mrs. Wig sitting on her nest. Kurt absolutely loved that, and I really hope that you did too. We are so grateful that you came and joined us this afternoon. It has been absolutely wonderful having you, and thank you so much for all the questions and comments. I really, really hope that I see you on tomorrow morning's drive. I can't wait to see what a new day holds. I think there is a lot of promise in tomorrow. and a beautiful day to come in terms of the weather too. So let's hope that some of the good luck from today carries over to tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening.